We'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like the minutes to reflect that we held an executive session earlier tonight for legal and personnel issues. We'll have public comments next. I would like to remind folks that you have 2 minutes maximum, and you can speak once. Are there any comments on agenda items? And please give your name.
All right, so I potentially am spoiling my first 2 minutes here, and I hope not, because I need more than 2 minutes, and I'm allowed more than 2 minutes under the Sunshine Act, under your own policies. You're allowed 2 minutes per topic, okay? As long as no one else has to speak on that topic. So that's out there. Failure to do that is a Sunshine Act violation, so I want you guys to be very aware of that. I do not want, I will probably have 5% hyperbole. The rest is all legal. Very important for you to hear. I know it's costing you guys a lot of money with what I've been doing up to this point, and I promise you it's going to cost you a lot more. It's not a threat. It's just that's what's going to happen if you don't give me my time, so you can go home, make good choices as a board, because some of y'all just don't know what's going on yet. I don't know what's going on. I wouldn't want to be in your position. So when I'm done, I'm allowed to talk to you directly based on your own policy. I can't talk to these other folks, but I'm talking to you. I'm asking you now, can I get more than 2 minutes cumulatively tonight on different topics?
2 minutes.
2 minutes one time?
Yes.
So then if he wants to speak and give me his time, am I allowed to have that?
No.
Okay, so he's going to speak, and I will be helping him through some important matters that you need to hear. So anybody who speaks... Yeah. Anybody who wants to help me out can come up and sit behind me. And if I run out, then they're going to come take my spot, and I will coach them. I will coach them so loud that you're going to hear me. You can make them repeat themselves if you want, and they'll repeat it. But everything I have is critical, and it can't just be held to 2 minutes, because I've been helping you guys for months, warning you guys, use the Constitution, use your policies. That's how you get out of this, not personal interjections, not absurdness, okay?
George, with all due respect, you're down to your last 15 seconds.
That's okay.
First 2 minutes.
I'm good. It was a risk. I got my point across. My first 2 minutes are done. And I'll let anybody else speak. When I get a chance and I need help, I'll raise my hand, because I plan on coming up. I have important matters to get through. So if anybody else wants to speak, speak. If not, I want to go back up and help. Yeah, anybody wants to speak can speak now.
This would be the time to talk about anything we're going to vote on tonight. There's not going to be another comment period until the very end when everything else is already decided.
Hi, everyone. I guess I'm supposed to say my name.
Yes.
D.A. Moyer. I'm here tonight to voice my support for the masking mandate and to say a few words regarding the importance of having, maintaining, enforcing, and supporting this rule. The mandate to wear masks in school is really no different than any other public safety requirement. It is not meant to erode personal freedom any more than traffic laws or rules governing the proper use of dangerous materials in the workplace. Putting a public safety rule in place serves several purposes, including, number one, the most obvious reason is to keep the public safe. The vast majority of people, regardless of what their personal beliefs may be, can benefit from this rule. It is designed to help people. Number two, it lets everyone know what is expected of them. In this case, it tells people they are expected to wear a mask when they are around other people in a public space. Number three, it conveys a sense of importance regarding the subject of the rule, so people can take it seriously. In this case, authorities want the public to know that it is important to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Number four, for those who do not care about public safety or those who put their own self-interest ahead of public safety, it provides some sort of consequence to act as a deterrent for harmful, reckless, or negligent behavior. This is the same as laws for speeding or driving under the influence or crossing the road at a crosswalk. So let's all be responsible citizens and follow the rules for our own protection and the safety of our loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brittany Smith. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I don't have much to say at all. I actually emailed you all before this what I'm going to say with links that y'all can click on to verify what I'm reading to you. Directly from the FDA website is guidance regarding emergency use authorizations. It says, for an unapproved product and for an unapproved use of an approved product, the statute requires that the FDA ensure that recipients are informed to the extent practicable given the applicable circumstances, that they have the option to accept or refuse the EUA product and of any consequences of refusing administration of the product. There's a footnote there, but basically consequences just means if you don't wear it, you could get sick, not if you don't wear it, you're going to lose your job or your kid can't go to school. The FDA website also says that the FDA is providing certain regulatory flexibility for the duration of the COVID-19 public health emergency and has issued emergency use authorizations for face masks, including cloth face coverings, surgical masks, and respirators. So therefore, based on the FDA's own guidance and their own website, it is unlawful and unethical for any mask mandate, period.
Hi, my name is Patricia Stone. I have 5 children in your district, and I can say as for the mask mandate, there's people that have worn masks from the beginning and say that they work because they've never gotten COVID. I'm a family of 9 that has not worn a mask unless we absolutely have had to since the pandemic has came out, and we also have never came down with the coronavirus, and we actually weren't even sick for over 18 months since the beginning of COVID when everything shut down. We still went places, we went shopping, like we didn't do vacations like out of state and stuff, but we still were in the public. We were still maintained social distancing, we washed our hands, we did what we needed to do. So in this aspect, children are required to wear masks because they're inside of a school building, but nobody has to wear them outside of the school. You can walk into a restaurant, you can walk into a store, you can do basically anything you want. You can sit at a bar, you can go anywhere, and you don't have to wear a mask sitting right next to people. But we have children in this school that were supposed to be, their desks moved apart, they were split up, they were in different classrooms, like they were limited in the amount of kids. I don't feel that masks are in the best interest of my children. And I just would wonder like how that makes a difference whether a kid sitting at a desk wears a mask or people are out in the public not wearing masks. I can vouch that I'm a volunteer for an organization outside of the school district, and some of the people that I have seen comment on Facebook or in person, they can go to events and they don't wear masks. So like how can you advocate for that on Facebook or into the public and say, well, the masks work and it's no different than anything else when you yourself are going to events and not wearing them. So in my opinion, my belief is I believe that the school district should put some thought into the exemption process if they're going to mandate masks and if that can be worked out.
My name is Richard Tilden West. I live at 970 Sugar Hollow Road. I've lived in Tunkhannock for a long time, but I lived longer actually in Pittsburgh and upstate New York, Ithaca, and other places around the world. I was ordained as a minister, and I served as such in this area for about 10 years.
We have 2 minutes, and I need some of that.
Okay.
You're a pastor, so you'll use it all.
I can do it. No, go ahead.
All right, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to help him with what he wants to say here because it's going to be my notes.
Now, sir, George,
So
George?
he's gonna, no, he's
No.
gonna, let you know, this is his.
No.
This is his time.
No.
So
Sit down.
I want to let
George?
you know, I just want to let you know, prior to this.
George?
Listen to me for 1 second. Prior
George,
to
no,
this,
no, 1 second.
prior to this, you already committed one sunshine violation, and if you want to argue it in court, you could do that. Your attorney will just get wealthy trying to fight it, but you already did it one time. I'm trying to help. I'm warning you that you're in sunshine violations, okay? You have them in the past, and I'm trying to help. I'm using your policies and your procedures as a tool, not as a weapon. If you don't let me help you haven't let me help you in the past, and now we're here. So please, I have some things to share with you. So I'm using his time. I'm going to coach him what to say as his representative, as his coach. So the heat index on our work sites, we have work sites that were up overhead, and we have people up in the heating ducts and stuff. These are atmospheric and heat index that you talked about in a couple meetings. I want to know who's in charge of keeping those workers safe, because I am working close. Who's in charge of overseeing the OSHA regulations on those work sites?
Time's up.
I'm asking you, I asked you a question. I can direct my questions to you. Who is taking care of those OSHA regulations on those work sites? Because there's liabilities. OSHA is a law. If you break the law, you wind up getting fines. They are coming. I'm working right next to the work sites. I see violations. Who's in charge of overseeing OSHA standards and violations on our job sites? Who is it? Inside, on your campuses, I'm watching. I can't hear you. Do you have a speaker over there? I still can't.
Shane Powers
Yep.
is our Chief Operations Officer. If you have concerns,
Yep.
that's who you should contact.
Okay, so she's in charge of it. That's great. Thank you
Okay.
very much. And if anybody up there sees violations, they're allowed to contact Shane too, not just me, right?
Yeah.
So I pretty much would, if you don't raise your hand, I'm going to consider a promise. I'm sure you all promise to go ahead and report violations so we don't get sued, right? I'll take that as a yes. Thank you. All right, thank you, buddy. You're good.
We had 4 children in this school during our lifetime, and they were well prepared for what they did. Sean West was the youngest. Vanessa West, or Callista West was the next. Vanessa West was the one after that, and the oldest is my son. The oldest is Jessica. Some of you probably don't know them, but the point is, when Vanessa and Sean graduated from this school, I don't know what you did, but you prepared them in ways that I couldn't even possibly imagine. They took the language readiness exam to enter the Air Force to see if they had language skills, and they both got over 100. Vanessa got 103, and her little brother got 107. And the two of them, at the same time, the two of them did attend the Presidio out in Monterey, California, the government's language school. You learn a language there that you can't, it's not looking stuff up in the dictionary. It's everything, just like they took intelligence. They were listening to the cell phones, and it was part of intelligence, and they were listening to conversations on the ground. And then they would find out what the enemy was doing and tell our guys down there what to expect. So they had to know the language like a native speaker. And for that to come out of Tonkan, to me, is awesome. I'm reminded of that tiger out front. I've never seen a more magnificent tiger than that. I went to Princeton, can you tell? And we have tigers in front of Nassau Hall, but they're just sort of standing there looking around, you know? But that tiger out there, he's not looking around, he's crouching. He's not standing, he's crouching. He's ready to spring. And I hope that represents the attitude of you guys and also the people that you're teaching. This is a fantastic opportunity we have that you guys are fulfilling. And I'm
Thank you
proud
so much,
to know
Mr. West. I graduated
all of you.
with Vanessa, so thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Higgins. I have 2 kids in the district, And I just wanted to point something out as I'm watching right now. I'm not for 100% masking. I feel it definitely causes more harm than good. I'm not saying there might be a slight chance it helps a little bit, but I think excessive masking is the key, and we're just asking for a choice. I would just like to say that, number one. Number two, if you're using your masks correctly, they're supposed to be effective, correct? I've seen 4 of you on this panel touching your masks and 2 of you not wearing them correctly. How are you supposed to say all these children are going to wear them and they're going to be effective? How is that supposed to work at all? I just wanted to make that comment.
Hello, my name is Stacy Peterson, and I have a very big voice, so I'm going to back this off a tad. I am the parent of a 4th grader here in the district, and as many others here this evening, I'm here to voice my personal stance on what is happening in our district. I would like to start out by saying I am not anti-mask. I believe that if someone feels that they need to wear a mask to protect themselves, then they should have the right to do that. I will go on to say that I am very anti-mandate. I will not tolerate a government or a school board telling me or my child what we need to wear on our bodies to protect ourselves. That is far overreaching. To add to it, the efficacy of masks is greatly dependent upon the material it is made from, the environment in which it's worn in, and how it's worn. For instance, a respiratory mask is much more efficacious and safer than a surgery mask or than a cloth mask. Surgeons go through testing and training on how to properly wear a mask. It has been proven that in controlled surgical environments, studies show that masks become a potential source of surgical site contamination in less than 2 hours. Some of our children get on the bus before 7 o'clock in the morning with a mask on and may not get home until after 4 o'clock. I have a 9-year-old, and our ages in this school district range from 5 to 18. They blow their nose in the mask. They wipe their face with the mask. They leave them on all day. They sweat in the mask. I'm sorry, but I am talking through that buzzer. You are being paid to be here, and I am paying you to be here, so I'm taking my time. So the efficacy of these masks, I'm sorry, sir.
No.
I am going to finish.
Someone else has a turn.
The efficacy of the mask is something that is not efficacious whatsoever. These children are breathing in pathogens and the particles that they're in all day, which can lead to, and I'm no medical doctor, but that can lead to upper respiratory inflammation, which I believe, in my unprofessional medical opinion, could be a precursor to COVID-19 infection. To go above and beyond that, it was about a year ago I stood up here and I took the liberty tonight to print off the first 4 pages of your agenda. And I just want to ask the board and Heather, where on your agenda tonight do you plan on addressing student performance and student mental health in the Tunkhannock Area School District? The answer to that is nowhere. Nowhere. I also went to the Pennsylvania School Board Association and looked up what the role of a school board is. And I'm going to read this right as it's read on their website. In essence, school boards have 3 functions: planning, setting policy, and evaluating results. And there's other information on there. Prohibited actions shall not engage in illegal discrimination on the basis of race, creed, or color. That is from the Pennsylvania School Board Association. However, apparently you are allowed to support discrimination when the high school principal has a meeting in the high school, and remember, I don't have a high school student, with students who want an exemption from masks. So there we are segregating our students. Point 2, mask or go home option on Tuesday. If they didn't mask or go home, they separated them. So for everybody on this stage and beyond that's preaching unity to our kids, I call bullshit. Vaccinated versus unvaccinated. If an unvaccinated student is within 3 feet of a student for 15 minutes or more, they have to quarantine regardless of mask. Mask versus unmasked. 3-foot separation of both parties wearing a mask, 6 foot without. This is too much. Too much. Where is education in your priority? It has become a moot point. Our kids are struggling mentally and they're failing academically because you have failed. You have failed your role of educating the children here in the Tunkhannock Area School District. COVID is not going to go away. It's here to stay. So what's going to happen next time that there's a new variant? What are we going to do? Are we going to shut down the school, Heather? What are we going to do? Because I'm going to tell you what, I can't keep doing this to my kid. And I'm going to tell you another thing. I'm taking a real chance standing up here talking to all of you people in front of God and everybody, because I could ostracize my little 9-year-old boy. His teachers could hear what I have to say and disagree with me and treat him differently. His friends' parents could hear what I say and treat him differently. But you know what? I am going to stand here and say this with conviction because I want my kid and all the other kids to know that what is happening in this school district is not right. It is not right. And they need to know that it is okay to stand up and not cower to illogical control. For God's sake, the other day you had a school bus headed to a football game with students on it. You found out one was a close person or a close case or whatever, you trace contacted or whatever you did. You brought the bus back, you got that kid off and send the rest of them on the way. None of that makes sense. That makes as much sense as using a screen door on a door and a submarine. What you are doing is not educating our children. What you are doing is creating an institutionalized place that does not have a very positive learning environment, and I have had it. And I implore everyone who feels like me to withdraw your students from the Tunkhannock Area High School District. Every single one of you voted to support what's happening because you all voted to reinstate her contract. Holly, Lori, every single one of you. And every single one of you in this audience and beyond, we all had a chance to vote in a new board, and that didn't happen.
Personally attack Heather. She does not make the policies. Whether I agree with what she says or not, we're not going there. We're better than that. We're bigger than that. Whether I agree with everything else you've said or not, we're not going there. And I would just
That's fine. I respect that. But at the same time, Holly, I want to make a point. I bet I will have an inbox full of messages saying, I'm glad that you stood up. We need to fill this auditorium, Tunkhannock, and we have less than 10% represented of our total school population.
We don't want them to shut it down.
Ma'am?
Thank you.
This is when it comes from the governor, not from us.
I understand that. We are in Pennsylvania, and I understand that. But at the same time, our school seems to be spending more time on contact tracing, quarantining, all this. How much time do you spend a week on that versus educational programs for our children?
Required by the state.
Represented of our total school population.
Ma'am?
Thank you.
When it comes from the governor, not from us.
I understand that. We are in Pennsylvania, and I understand that. But at the same time...
We can't hear that. We can't hear you. We have no idea what that was.
I can't tell you what it was. I have no clue.
They waste so much time on contact tracing for students that weren't
Somebody? Did you guys shut this down?
No, there's a technical issue. Ma'am, please,
Check. Don't give them an opportunity to shut us down. Do the best you can to get to 2 minutes. Yeah. At the end, you guys can, the fury of 1,000 suns at the end. All right? But don't let them get us busted before we are 2 minutes.
we definitely want to hear what everybody has to say. I do. We just have to make sure we maintain decorum here so that voices are heard.
If someone takes 10 minutes, we're not going to hear everybody.
Is this working?
It's working.
That's why we have a 2-minute limit.
Hi,
Did you start your 2 minutes? Because she didn't start talking.
I'm starting it now.
Thank you.
my name is Jennifer Brody, and I have a child in 9th grade and 10th grade. Rules of construction. In ascertaining the intent,
Tell them that this is in their policy book. They either wrote this, they amended it.
this is in your policy book, you either wrote it or amended it,
took an
and
oath
it's
to it.
an oath that you guys took to this. Rules of construction. In ascertaining the intent of the board in adopting a policy or procedure, or of the administration in establishing a regulation, the following presumptions, among other legally applicable presumptions, may be used. 1, that neither the board nor the administration intends a result that is absurd,
Right? That's
Yeah.
absurd.
impossible of execution, or unreasonable. 2, that neither the board nor the administration intends to violate federal or state constitutions and any other applicable law. If any policy or procedure or administrative regulation can be given multiple interpretations, the board and the administration intend that only constitutional and lawful interpretation shall be valid, and that neither an unconstitutional nor an unlawful interpretation was intended.
They wrote that. That deserves an applause right there. That's
Okay, and now I have a question of Mrs. McPherson. How many hours this last week did you spend contact tracing?
So we're just going to stick to the rules where you can only address questions to Phil tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Farr?
Too many. Too many hours. Because we had too many students.
No, what's too many? I would like a number.
Way too many.
What's way too many?
About 48.
Okay, so 48 hours of Heather McPherson's time was spent this week in contact tracing. We pay her over $100,000 out of our tax-paying dollars, and that is not her job. She is not focusing on the education of my child or anyone else's children that are in here, because she's spending 48 hours contact tracing. I very respectfully, multiple times, asked last year that we please use some of the funds available and have contact tracing be managed by somebody other than the administrators of our district, so they could focus on getting plans in place and actually educating our children. That was not entertained at all, and several of our administrators are spending exasperating amounts of time doing that, and it's not okay. They need to be focusing.
Then wear a mask.
And honestly, I don't appreciate it. I've heard of tons of different people.
Enough.
Hi, my name is CJ Apple. I'm an 11th grade student here at the high school. First of all, I wanted to actually start out by thanking the board. I think over the past 2 years, based on the circumstances, you guys have done a phenomenal job with our education. I can say as a student working with the Canvas platform, it's been well designed and I'm able to get my work done as I need to be. I'm sorry. Okay, I just think that the Canvas platform was well designed. Also, a lot of you speaking tonight are talking about mental health of the students. I can speak from personal experience when I say that my mental health has not been the best since school has been this way, and I totally agree with you in that way. I'm sorry. I see a lot of teachers here, I see a lot of board members here, there's a lot of people here. And what I'm trying to bring to you is that if we don't wear masks, if this is what it means that we have to stay in school to wear a mask so we can have the activities that we look forward to every year, then so be it. Deal with it. It's a piece of cloth. My last year of high school is next year. Listen, and it is not control. It is based on your opinion. The school has a Fusion C3 open for students who don't want that.
All right,
Let him speak.
CJ, talk.
You had your turn.
CJ, talk to us. Everybody else, stop shouting down at students. Stop shouting down students. Go ahead, CJ.
I think the excuse
Security.
me. Sorry. I think the last thing I have to say, this says a lot about us. Thank you, though, for listening.
Excuse me. If you want to talk, you need to let others speak. That's very disrespectful.
Is my mic working?
And enough of that.
No. I have something to say. For any of you adults to disrespect a student that has an opinion of his own.
He was not
Did you hear that too? He was talking for us for the call. That's what's wrong with this generation of smart-ass men. What? Where? We need security. Like, this is not acceptable.
We can't have this.
All right, I got maybe about 30 seconds here. You're going to listen to all our complaints, and it's going to go in one ear and out the other because you came here and you knew what you were going to do. You just needed to hear us, okay? If our students can be masked or unmasked, they're going to be safe regardless. But what's going to happen down the future? 1, 2, 3 years. I sat on the chair last night, watched the boob tube on cyber school. That's what's going to push. So everyone's job here is in jeopardy, unless you start thinking more about education. 48 hours, all these other things. Start thinking about that. Then maybe you might start thinking, let's give these kids education, because now your jobs are in jeopardy. Now I'll let someone else speak. I didn't even need 2 minutes.
Before you're done, make sure you tell them that that direction that you guys wrote about not being absurd is this. This is absurd. You promised it wouldn't be absurd. It's absurd. So then therefore you're supposed to resort to the constitutions. It's in your writing. If you don't do that, everybody here, everybody who heard this, you are now culpable and liable. That's very important. That means your personal fortunes are at stake now because you just became culpable and liable because you're not holding up to your policies that you took an oath to. So that's going to continue. If you break laws willfully, that's willful neglect. You become culpable and liable. I promise you it's coming. I asked you in the past to think about, I know that you haven't read your policies.
I mean, you guys can think about it now, stand up and take it. You know, you say these are coming straight from down, but are they? You guys can make the change right here, okay? Make it right. Otherwise, I'm looking out for you guys. You guys possibly may not have a job in several years because that could be the way it's going. So now start thinking about that.
My name's Ashley Napoli.
Hold on, please.
If he's going to reply to him, then we get to reply back to him.
George, hush. Grow up.
I am hearing commenter after commenter suggesting that somehow this board has discretion about whether to follow a mandate issued from the governor's office, from the Department of Health. The district does not have discretion about whether to follow that mandate. In fact, the Republican leadership that has filed suit to have this order thrown out has also said that districts must follow the mandate while it is in place until a judge rules otherwise. Certainly. My name is David Kahn. I'm with Sweet Stevens, Katz & Williams. See, that is, okay.
They are directing us, not you.
I did.
He's solicitor for the school district. He works for our attorneys.
I'm going to recommend if this audience, which is already in violation of the mandate, just for the record, by not wearing masks, cannot... If this audience cannot allow the business of the board to move forward in an orderly way, the meeting should be adjourned. It's just that simple.
If we adjourn this meeting and walk away, the strictest understanding of that mandate goes into effect.
The full mandate, right? So now you're threatening.
No, I'm not threatening you. Whoever's out there, I was the one who's trying not to have an exception, to have options. But the way you guys are behaving, it's making it very difficult to make that argument. But who pays for you? Nobody. We're not paid.
Pays us.
This is volunteer. So anyway, the point is, if you want there to be a chance for an exemption or anything like that, we need to get that part where we vote for that. So keep talking, but be respectful, because if we adjourn the meeting, the most strict interpretation of that goes into effect. And that's not Heather's fault, that's nobody's fault, other than the fact that we had to adjourn the meeting because it couldn't be brought under control with grown-ups.
And if they do implement the mandate, then sit down and let them talk. You're driving me more crazy than they are. That's okay.
I apologize for people who are disrespectful. The school board, I feel that you listened to us this summer when we asked for choice. You gave us that choice. I understand that this mandate is over your heads. It's over all of our heads, and I think that's where our frustration lies. I'm a parent of 3 girls, 2 in district, 1 that'll come to kindergarten next year. I'm also a 15-year teacher here. I love my job, I love this community. But what's happening, we masked at the beginning, we did it all last year. We unmasked. I can look at people here on this board, I know that your children play with my children. I see our kids in community sports, in varsity sports, at karate, at dance class, at play dates, at birthday parties. Our children are not socially distanced anywhere else except for school. What this means is school has become a negative place for our students. Our students have gone from loving school to not. But now that they have been unmasked everywhere else, and school is no longer the safe place. School is where you need to be 3 feet apart. 3 feet apart all the time. It's where you need to be masked. It's where you are afraid of getting sick. It is now where you are afraid of at any moment someone coming to your classroom door and making you leave school for 10 days. It is no longer a happy, safe place that my children have gone to, because they have happy, safe places everywhere else except for school. I appreciate that you do everything you can to keep our children safe, but at this point, I have 39 students per day in my classes. With the option of masking, prior to this mandate, only 2 out of those 39 students masked themselves every day. And that is wonderful. That's their choice. That's the awesomeness of choice. But to me, those numbers, I walked down the hallway and I saw the same thing. Our community has spoken. They are not masking their children anywhere else, the vast majority. We are fighting a losing battle at Tunkhannock because we're putting kids out on COVID quarantine and they're going to the fair. The high schoolers are going to work. They're going to their friends and their grandmas and they're playing with their cousins. You are trying, but the community has already spoken, the vast majority, and we've said that we're ready to move on and we don't want our children masked. Most of us, but that's the value of choice. I know that there's a lot of heatedness here, but I would just ask for choice. We respect those people that would like to mask and those of us that choose not to. But our children are not masked anywhere else right now. And we're never going to fight COVID in our schools when that's not happening anywhere else. Last year, our children, our families were masked everywhere. They were masked at Walmart, at the grocery store. They didn't go to their friends. They didn't have group birthday parties. And yet last year, we still contracted COVID at 6 feet apart. We still shut down our school often. Our children's education is lacking. And it's not because we don't have great administration and we don't have great teachers. It's because that we can't teach the way we used to. We can't pull small groups of children and differentiate and get to them on their level. You can't do that when you're 6 feet apart and 3 feet apart. And that's where our gaps are growing. We already knew that these gaps were huge from this past 18 months. I know this mandate is over our heads. I know that the state is threatening my certification by not masking my children. I know it's threatening you guys as liability. We're all in a really scary place right now. I just ask for choice, and I just ask you to evaluate that our children are viewing school as the bad place. Today, I had a student who was not feeling well. Talked with mom. Turns out that he's just stressed because he's worried he's going to get sick here at school now. School is feeling stressful. School is where we're sending the message that you're not safe, you better be masked, but you're safe everywhere else in the community. We're not going to have a year any different than last year because our children aren't masked anywhere, and we're not social distanced anywhere, and children aren't quarantining. I think that we need to put a little halt on all this constant quarantining. COVID's here. If you are opting to not mask, you're opting to take that risk of COVID. And that's a choice that those of us that choose to not mask our children are willing to take to get back to a normal life. We want our children in school. I was a cyber teacher last year. I will not allow cyber for my own children. Children need to be in school. Thank you. I hope that everyone is respectful to you tonight, and thank you for listening.
My name is Kelly Fry, and I'm here to help.
I was a cyber teacher last year. I will not allow cyber for my...
So I would just like to assist with a demonstration of how what masks actually do.
That was in there for less than 2 seconds. This is an OSHA approved. Sit down, George! This is an OSHA approved air quality test. I had it on the whole time in here. The air quality was perfect. I showed it, didn't touch a thing. I have to lift her mask away from her face in order to put this in, which means I'm letting fresh air in. Now the thing about this is you've seen it on the internet. No one knows that this is OSHA approved stuff. This was in this building. This is in Procter & Gamble. If a worker works in these atmospheres and they're forced to work in it,
what's happening?
This becomes culpable. This right here.
Yeah, this has got to stop. So this is John Burke. I'm not able to be there, but I
This
don't know.
right here
George,
is an
you don't
air
run the
quality
meeting.
control.
Since
Your
when are you the
children,
school board president?
your children are
Bill, you have
staying in
to stop this. That
atmospheres
guy's gotta
that
go.
grown men cannot work in.
You gotta go.
Because this is law. This is law. OSHA law. You are now culpable. You're culpable if you put kids in masks.
George.
All I want to say, I think a lot has been said, and I'm in agreement with all the people that are encouraging you to give us exemptions so that we don't have to mask our children. And all I know is what goes on in my house and what comes home. And last year, I can't even tell you. You can call the Mahoopany nurse and find out how many times she had to call me because my son was in her office with a headache. And I know that's, I know there's people that are worse off and have, a lot of different other issues, but who can focus when they have a headache? We've all had a headache. None of our children deserve to have their breathing inhibited, to sit and try to be educated in school with a headache or any other issues, mental issues. Let's not, we could talk forever on that. So that's all that I know that went on in my house. And it breaks my heart that my poor son doesn't want to go back to school because he doesn't want a headache.
Thank you.
Name's Jerry Jenkins. First thing here, your contact tracing. It's horrible. 9/3, I was told my kid was in contact with another child. I wasn't told about that until after 9/6. What about all the other kids he was in contact with? The other kids in the classrooms that were there? Because he was sitting next to that kid, he can get it, but he can't transmit it to somebody else, or the kids in the hall. Everybody else that he comes in contact with. That's the other part too. That kid can be quarantined, but you don't quarantine, make them stay out the other kids that are in his family, or their family I should say. I have this here. Department of Health Mask Order 3B grants exception for medical and or mental health. Shouldn't that kind of play into effect with what we're looking for here? Dawn Keefe, she's running for state rep. She's compiling a list for complaints of kids that have been segregated from their classroom because they wouldn't wear a mask when they had an exception form. That's PA HRC Education Complaint Form 12-2020. We had an election not too long ago. Wolf had some pretty heavy restrictions laid on him. That was through election. Think about it. Now, I have 3 kids in the district. They were straight A students. Then you did the cyber thing last year. Cyber thing, at least with what PA did, isn't working. If we go that route, if you make the mask mandated again, I will be taking my children out and we will be doing something that will work. I prefer that my kids go to school. They enjoy it. They like it. They like being able to interact with other kids. They'll be able to interact with other kids outside of this, but I'm not going to tolerate and deal with this. You guys need to listen to everybody else that spoke. Everywhere outside of here has moved on. We're done with it. Now again, you have choices to make. Let's hope you guys make the right one.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Halleck. I have the Tombstone Inn. For the past year, I have been open and I did not follow a mandate. Never had a COVID test. I also want to say that I'm a daughter of a Marine. My father just passed away last April. And when my stepmother called me and told me, your father's having chest pains, he doesn't want to go, she put him on the phone with me and I said, Dad, do it for your kids. Well, he had Agent Orange and he passed away 4 days later. The reason why I'm telling you this is right after that I had my child and the delivery doctor injured her and well, her hand no longer works. So that day I remember coming back after seeing so many doctors and this and that and I said to myself, I hear this man on the radio, a governor, now raising the toll, but they're telling me that maybe my daughter could have a chance if she gets surgery to go to Philadelphia to get fixed. But he's raising the tolls. Then in the next sentence he says, well, we're going to close down your businesses because you're non-essential and who's essential, who's non-essential, so on and so forth. I said to myself, now you're going to shut my bar down. But this is the way I provide for my child. But not only that, I sort of fund Tunkhannock Area School District also. My point in being is this. First, I don't know where you guys are getting your mandates from. The Secretary of Health, right? That's who tells you what to do. Do you know that she is not actually a doctor? She is an attorney. Do you guys know that? She is not certified health anything. Wolf, let her be an acting health secretary. So just so you all know, you're listening to someone that isn't even a doctor, one. I just want to say that. So you can't even listen to anything that she's saying because she's not educated enough to do so. Also, getting back to the mandates with the bar. I had police officers stop by. I had Department of Ag stop by. Everybody stopped by. And you know what? They would say, how come this person isn't eating with their drink? Da, 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 da. You know what I would say? A chicken finger is not going to save your life. The mask that you wear is not going to save your life. And most of all, if I have COVID, if I'm protected from COVID, right, because I got a vaccine, but yet I get COVID, none of this makes sense, is basically what I'm saying. Your masks don't make sense, your mandates don't make sense, it all comes down to political bullshit. And if I am honestly going to be a taxpayer, then I honestly want to know how you can tell me what's best for my child when you're taking advice from somebody that's not even a doctor, period.
Hello, my name is Josh Hartman. I was here back in February because I had some issues with the way you set up the school system online at home teaching my children. I told you then it was failing my kids. It was causing them all kinds of problems, and now I have the proof of what you did to my kids. 2 of them failed, and 2 of them made it and had to go to summer school. I'm not here to ask you about a mask, because if you don't already know a piece of paper ain't stopping a virus, then I guess you're always going to be uneducated, because they don't stop viruses. You had them on the kids last year. Kids still got the virus in the school. Paper mask's not going to work. I'm not here about that. I'm here because I want to know, what have you changed about your system from last year to this year now? Because the numbers are going to keep going up, and you're going to send them back home to us. So is there anything you guys have done to change what you're planning on? The inevitable happening, them kids are coming back home whether we all like it or not. They're coming back home again. You're going to send them home because the numbers are going to come back up. It's winter time. It's when viruses come back out. Nobody in this room has ever skipped out on the cold virus, have you? Nobody's skipping out on the coronavirus. You're all going to get it. I have had cancer twice in my life. I have a compromised immune system. This summer I got COVID. It was a hard cough for a whole month. That's it. I didn't go to the doctor and get medicine. I drank chaga tea, honey, and vitamin C. I have a compromised immune system. I'm one of the ones supposed to be afraid of this. I will go get it right now. If anybody in here has it, I'll go get it again right now. Prove it to all of you. It's not that bad. I'm not here for that, though. I want to know if you're going to fail my kids again next year. Did you change anything about that system?
All right, most of you know me. How you doing, Rob? All right, I'm gonna try doing this without swearing, being belligerent, or acting like I normally do, because Eddie's out there with handcuffs. He said he'd take me home. I agree with almost everything they're saying. I believe that the young man over here says the mask works for him. It's his choice. The other man that said it's his, he preaches about the mask. That's his right, his choice and his opinion. Me, myself, I'm with 95% of the people. It ain't worth a shit. I drive truck. I've been in 48 states. God gave me an immune system the same as he did everybody else in this country. And our body was designed to fight things like this. Natural selection. We don't go around saving lions and tigers, deer, animals, because something else is going to get them. You let it go. Unfortunately, that means a human life. Do I want anybody to die? I don't want anybody in here to get sick and die. I am an ass, but I'm not that much of an ass. I'm just asking for a chance, the choice. You guys are all older than I am by a little bit. But I'm going to ask you where common sense left this world and is now ruled by a bunch of people who think everything else should be done by the book. Because I'm sure all of you's had a bout with something. Common sense. George can't do nothing but OSHA, but OSHA says don't stick your damn fingers in a moving wheel, don't it? Common sense tells you that. I'm just asking for some common sense with the board. None of us want our children to be masked. My daughter has a terrible time with it. Same as the last gentleman, the cyber school does not work for her. She can't get the grasp of the canvas. My youngest one, she's afraid to come into school without a mask because she's going to be bullied. So my question is you to please look at a mandate where it should be legal for each one of us to choose ourselves what we do. But how about stepping it up on the school end? I think the bully end should be aspect. If your child wants to wear a mask, send him to school. If he doesn't, they should be able to go to school too. And the first little brat that sits there and picks on either one of them, throw their ass out of school. It's easy. 3 days, bounce them. They want to do it again, call the parents. Let's go back to the parents. Because my child shouldn't tell him, the young man, that he shouldn't wear a mask because he's stupid. And in the same token, I wouldn't hope he'd be able to tell my child that they're stupid for not wearing one. It's called choice, freedom. That's why we're American. That's why we live here. That's all I want.
Hello, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Katie Cantone. I have 2 children in the district, and I wanted to say something in regards to the mental health issue that people keep addressing in regards to the COVID procedures you put into place last year and the masking issue. It is impacting some children greatly, like children that are normally outgoing, very happy children, and to see a change in them is just, it's heartbreaking as a parent. And when they come home and tell you that they're mentally drained from the way that school is for them now, and that they don't even want to be there, they don't want to participate in extracurricular activities because of restrictions, it's really hard for me to watch my child go through that. And in regards to the mask mandate, which I am pro-choice for that, 100%, I also have a young son who started kindergarten this year, and I just want to see him receive the same education, mask or no mask, because if he gets sent home, I don't feel like his education through me, as not a degreed educator, and I'm not going to do as well of a job if he was in school. And I feel like my kids should be raised to know that they have a choice. It is okay to have that choice, whether it be different from your friends or anybody else. It's okay to have that choice. It's okay to stand up for yourself and that choice, and I don't want to see that right taken away from them. That's all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nolan Robinson. I am a 5th and 6th grade cyber teacher here at Tunkhannock, and I am in my 16th year here. First things first, I would like to thank the board for your patience tonight. Obviously, you have a lot of it. I want to basically put out there the primary fact that, without a doubt, everyone's priority here tonight, whether you're for masks or against masks, are for their safety. We want our children safe, and that is absolutely true. And this is a very difficult decision for you guys. It's a very difficult decision for every district across the state. So I want to thank the board, I want to thank our administration. Our administration does not want to spend over 48 hours contact tracing. It is policy, it is procedure, and they have to go through the right lines to make sure that everything is accounted for. I am honestly going to say that there was another teacher who did declare that the majority of teachers, or the majority of people in this area, believe of choice. And there is not one person in this entire country who wants to wear these masks. Not one. Nobody wants to wear these masks. Unfortunately, these are unprecedented times. These are historical times in which we have all sorts of disinformation coming at us from every angle, and that is very difficult to distinguish what is true and what is not true. And in all honesty, nobody here fully has the answers, because there are no doctors in this building right now. Maybe there are, but overall, I do understand and agree with the fact that, yes, so-and-so is not a doctor, but we're taking advice from them. Well, the majority of people here proclaiming that masks do nothing are also taking advice from many doctors who are not doctors, or are under the vast majority, or the vast minority of the doctors who follow the science. We need to follow the science, and we need to protect our children the best that we can. Is it the end-all be-all? No. Is it 100% effective? No. But I will tell you this, the vast majority of the people who believe that the best interests of our children and to protect them to the best capacity that we possibly can at this moment are not here tonight. They are not here tonight for several reasons. One, yes, most of the people are not following the mandate. The gentleman over here is absolutely correct. And I don't even want to touch this microphone right now. But thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you, board, and I hope you make the right decision for the safety of our children.
Hello, everybody. My name is Roger Wintermute. I have 4 children in the school district. In regards to that last statement there, you know, maybe there's nobody here that's qualified to keep us safe, but, you know, there's a lot of people that are keeping us safe abroad right now, maybe stuck in Afghanistan, and, you know, we don't always have to have a qualification to know what's keeping us safe. So that's a pretty broad statement. I would like to start by saying that definitely appreciate what the school board is doing. This is a volunteer position. There's a lot of other things you could be doing with your evening. Here you guys are. I would also like to thank everybody that showed up here tonight. Was a little worried that we may not have a showing. It's very easy to sit on your phone on Facebook and say they're going to be somewhere, but you guys showed up, so thank you for that. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say tonight, I kept thinking about something my grandfather told me years ago, which was that we were having coffee at his kitchen table one Sunday morning, and he said that the problem with our country is that you can ask 100 hard questions, and the answer to 99 of them is money. I didn't really understand that at the time, but as years go on, it starts to make a lot more sense. So I want to talk to you about some money. So I sat outside this auditorium before this meeting started with a petition. And what this says is a cyber school interest petition. And I just want to read one paragraph to you guys. The background of this petition says, due to the district and the school board's inability to hear the concerns of taxpayers regarding the current handling of the COVID-19 virus, parents are now pursuing options outside of in-class schooling. Cyber classrooms have drastically improved over the last 2 years, with many options available for families. This is all available at no cost to the family. You may elect to enroll in the Tunkhannock Area School District Cyber Program, or you can choose an alternative cyber program, which would cost the school district on average of $12,000 to $15,000 per student. I didn't advertise that I was going to do this. I told one other person that's sitting in here tonight. I didn't talk about it on Facebook. I had a $20 table from Walmart that I set up, and in a half an hour, I got 76 signatures with parents that are interested in putting their kids in a cyber school. On this petition, I had 2 columns. One, you could select a Tunkhannock Area School District cyber program. The second column, you could select an alternative cyber school program, the private one that I mentioned. Not one person selected TASD. So again, I just want to mention, and I'm almost done, I know I'm about to go over, I'm almost done. Without advertising, without talking about this to anybody, in a half an hour I got 76 people, 76 concerned parents that said they are so fed up they're willing to pull their kids out and put them in a private school, private cyber school for $15,000 per student, which is $1.1 million. I'm sure we can drive that number a lot higher than that. So I'm glad John was able to join us here as our treasurer. I was hoping if he wasn't here, you guys could call him if you were going to make a vote tonight, because that's a number that I think he'd want to hear. If we double that, we're talking $2.5 million. Maybe the money is what will make everybody listen. We are not asking for you guys to pick a side. We're asking for you to give us a choice to allow us to pick a side. If we don't get that choice, we're going to be pulling our children out into private cyber school, and we're sending you the bill.
Hi, my name is Jody King. I have 2 children in the school district. There's a few things that I'd like to say. Number one, I'm sorry to this young man for any heckling that happened during you speaking. You have a choice, and I love that you have a choice. Something I really, really am tired of hearing is the word choice, because it's actually not a choice. It's a right. My child has a right to breathe freely, not with a mask. If they choose to wear a mask, no problem. I don't have a problem with that. My kids are raised to choose what they want in life. Can they choose whether or not they go to school? No, but they can choose whether or not they wear a mask. Why? My child gets a headache. One of them does. The other one doesn't. Sees no problem with wearing one. But my kids are left with the choice of, if they don't wear a mask, if they aren't in school, probably they're going to lose out on sports. Probably they're going to lose out on other things in their education. It's not fair to those kids. They should have a right to breathe, period. It's not choice. He has a right to breathe how he wants to, so does my kids, period. The other issue I have is this vaccination, unvaccinated thing. It's total discrimination. My child came in contact with a vaccinated teacher who had COVID, and he has to be out. How does that make sense? Because he's not vaccinated, and a teacher came in here with COVID who is vaccinated, their kid can stay in school, my kid cannot. That's absolute discrimination. And to say that you're going to put my child on leave and act like, oh, well, they're not missing anything. We promise it's all the same. It's not the same. Guess what my son had to do yesterday? He had to email teachers to beg them to give him work. Now, I can tell you right now, me in 8th grade, if you would have gave me the choice of whether or not to email my teachers to get some work or not, I wasn't emailing my teachers. That is for sure. But my son did. He shouldn't have to. He has a right to an education here in this building from his teachers. Not online, not no Zooms, not really horrible, horrible services. The other point I'd like to bring up that I kind of always go back to is we've never discussed the fact that kids failed at an alarming rate last year. Nothing was done about that. I know there were kids that were passed and somehow they're going to magically make it up by 10th grade that they really failed. I don't see how that works. I don't see how you make up a year's worth of work over the next couple years and call that kid well educated. I think 10 years from now, when somebody's really not doing their job well, the quote's going to be, well, they graduated during COVID. That's literally what's going to happen. We are failing our kids once again. Please consider giving our kids a chance to be exempt from wearing a mask if that's what they choose. Give them the same education as the next kid. I don't care whose kid it is, whether they're vaccinated, unvaccinated. That should not be your choice. That should be my choice and my kid's choice. That's their right, not a choice.
So my name is Nicole Heckman. My daughter is in this district, and I'm just going to say what pretty much everybody else already has. I just think that we should have a choice. It's no different for my daughter when we go visit my brother or grandparents, aunts, uncles. We go to birthday parties. She does all these things with friends from this district and our last school district, so we're driving an hour. She's around a lot of people. We don't wear masks. We haven't the entire time. We've never gotten COVID. I understand that we have the mandate, but we should also be allowed to have the exception. I just don't see a difference when she's hanging out with friends and then she comes to school and literally hangs out and talks to those same friends. So the mask here is supposed to protect her when she could get it outside of school. And for the people that want to wear a mask, then they absolutely should be able to wear a mask if they think that that's going to stop it from making them sick. But those of us that don't want to shouldn't have to. I go to work, I wear a mask when I walk in the building. As soon as I get to my desk, I take it off. What's the difference between the kids doing the same thing? Even if we can't get rid of them altogether, they were wearing them on the bus and then taking them off when they get to school. I don't see what the difference is between me doing it with work and then them doing it at school. So that's all I had.
Hello. My name's Lyle Jones. I've got 2 kids in the district. I'm here to voice my opinion on the mask mandate as well. First, I want to start with the person that issued the mandate, Tom Wolf. Let me ask everybody, with the amount of blood that he has on his hands, from the failure to protect the vulnerable in nursing homes to the thousands of lives and businesses he destroyed from pointless lockdowns,
Do you really believe he should be the one telling us what's best for our children? I think not. He's okay with packing sports stadiums with 40, 50, 60,000 fans without masks, but our kids that have basically zero risk from COVID need to put on a mask for 8 hours while sitting in a classroom. Just doesn't make sense to me. I still have not seen any overwhelming data or science that suggests masking up our kids makes any significant difference in COVID transmission. Sure, it may help with the bigger droplets if a kid doesn't properly cover their mouth when coughing or sneezing, but that's about it. And I hear some people saying that the mask must work because look at last year compared to this one. Well, when you look at all the different variables compared to last year, for example, kids being spaced out, we utilized Mahopany, kids were not traveling into different rooms, we now have a more contagious variant, they say, and so much more. So to say the difference is because of the mask is just careless. Unless everyone's wearing an N95 or a respirator, I don't believe a mask makes a big impact. We've lost around 400 children to COVID in the U.S. Yes, every death of a child is tragic. And that's a subgroup of 73 million, by the way. So many people here, including some here and on the board, are screaming that we should be masking our children. I must ask why. I didn't hear you, I did not hear anyone screaming for masks back in the 2018-2019 flu season when we lost 480 kids to the flu. We lost more kids in one flu season than we have in a year and a half with COVID. I did not hear these same people screaming for the safety of our kids when we found out an estimated 250,000 child abuse cases went unreported from the schools being shut down last year. I didn't hear you screaming when we found out about the record number of suicides among children during the lockdowns when kids had to stay home, couldn't hang with their friends, couldn't hug their friends, and couldn't even see their friends smile because of the masks. Where were you then, as these issues were a much greater risk to our kids than COVID? A list of some things, some know, some don't, that's more dangerous to our kids: car accidents, drowning, suicides, and the flu. And that's a fact. It seems there should be more focus on those issues rather than forcing a mask on our children. And a few other potential risks that some people may not be aware of that I'd like to just go over real quick. Of course, fog glasses for kids with myopia. You got serious acne and other skin conditions. You got the distractions it causes some kids from the discomfort of the mask. As the gentleman here showed us, it increases the level of carbon dioxide in the blood because of increased airway resistance when exhaling. And then, of course, the masks themselves become vectors for pathogens when they become moist or used for too long. And what about the psychological damage that we do to our children by forcing them to cover their faces, teaching young kids that the air we breathe is toxic and everyone around them are sick? What about the kids trying to learn how to read and they can't see their teacher enunciate the words? What does the mask do to the developing immune system if they have to wear one all day, every day? These are all questions and concerns that can't be answered totally at this time because of the lack of data and studies. But there are many doctors and pediatricians that are saying we need to look into these potential risks. And like someone else said before, if a kid or parent wants to wear a mask because it gives them a sense of security, then they are free to do so. But forcing a kid to make personal health and developmental sacrifices for a virus that has basically zero risk to them, in my opinion, is child abuse. Last page. Most people should know that COVID is real. Many of us, if not all of us, know someone that has died from it. It's sad, but unfortunately, COVID will always be with us. Kids under 12 are not at risk. Kids over 12 can get the vaccine anytime. We cannot allow the fear of COVID to overwhelm our ability to analyze data and science. In my opinion, other than therapeutics and maybe modifying the vaccine from year to year to adjust to different variants, The risk from COVID has been mitigated to the fullest possible extent available to human beings. What more can be done? We need to take the necessary precautions, be smart, and continue to enjoy life. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Jason Freethy. I have 2 kids in the district. Tonight we heard a lot about choice. You know, the mandate, it exists. It's up here in the cloud. Choice. Parents spoke with choice when students returned to school. It was rumored that between the high school and the intermediate center, 700 students did not report for school that day. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a lot of students. Now, some of them might have been out for other reasons, but I believe the vast majority was because of the school told us we had no mechanism to deal with the mandate. That was a choice. The mandate never said anything about 504s, IEPs, or doctor's notes. There was a section in there, section 3B or whatever, for parents to send an exemption form in. We were waiting for the board to make that decision. That's a choice. There's other school districts in the area that sent a letter, an exemption letter home for parents to fill out. That's choice. I ask all of you to have the same choice for parents. Let us choose whether we want a mask, not mask, shield, whatever. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Linnell Farber. I have a daughter in the district. She's in 4th grade. In my daily job, I deal with definitions in ordinances and policies. And I want to bring your attention to a policy that the school board itself wrote many years ago, and I took an oath to it when you guys took your positions. So under definitions, I refer to them every day in my job. It's what guides the county's ordinances and many other organizations and governmental bodies day to day is what the definitions are in an ordinance, policy, handbook. This is right from your handbook. Under definitions, a child is defined as an individual under 18 years of age. Child abuse is defined as intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly doing any of the following. Under that, number 8 is engaging in any of the following recent acts. And under that, it's 8E, is interfering with the breathing of a child. Masks interfere with the breathing of a child. My daughter has a problem, and I know all of her friends do as well. Again, Jody said it, it's not a choice, it's a right that our children should be able to breathe, and it's our right as parents to be able to have a choice to mask our children or not. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Most of you know me. My name is Kristen Kowalczyk. I stand in front of you tonight as a mom of 3 wonderful children, a taxpayer, and a teacher of this district. Now, I can't tell you how many years I've been here. It feels like forever. I love my job. I love what I do. I am standing here basically to tell you to give everyone choice. I know it's hard. I know we're in a tough spot. I've seen the mandate. I've read it multiple times. I've seen what's come down from PSEA. The threats that they've put on teachers who go against it. The threats that they've put on school districts who go against it. I know we're in a tough spot. I know we are. But your community has spoken. We have to stop blaming ourselves for other people's health problems. And that comes from the top down. Other people are blaming you. And I'm sorry. No one should be blaming you for the health problems that are happening. No one can plan or prevent someone else's illnesses or death. Ask someone who has suddenly lost someone without warning, or had someone in their family get sick without any warning signs. We can't plan these things. It broke my heart the other day to see Wyalusing high schoolers being denied their free and appropriate education, the education that their parents and communities pay taxes for not wearing a mask. Some of the things that I have seen and heard in our own district on the same topic also breaks my heart. I will not speak about those things. I have seen and read the mask order, like I said. I've also read the threats from our teachers' union and their encouragement for teachers to rat out districts and fellow teachers who do not follow this order to its entirety. I know there's a lot on the line here for you as a district and for me as an employer of a public school, or an employee of a public school, sorry. I know and understand that you're in this tough spot as a district because someone higher than you has given you these rules to follow. As a rule follower myself, I understand that it isn't easy to go against rules, but we also have to question, do these rules make any sense? Last year, you weren't far enough away if you were 3 feet, but this year, it's okay. Last year, everyone went through quarantine if they were deemed a close contact. This year, it doesn't count if both kids are masked. But it does count if you're an adult. But not if you're 18 and you're a student. So please explain to me the difference. We have to be masked inside, but outside and in gym class, we can take them off and breathe. According to the order, we can take these masks off outside and have breaks when we're eating inside. And in our classrooms, I mean, most of you know that our cafeteria has now spaced 6 feet, but in our classrooms, they eat breakfast and they have snack and they're 3 feet. That I don't understand either. According to the order, we can take these masks off at different times. Please explain to me how a virus as deadly as it is made out to be knows when to leave you alone and when to come after you. Just as I urge my own children and the children in my classroom, I am also urging you to ask questions and stay curious, because curiosity and critical thinking spark true learning. Please do not continue to demand things of your school community because someone else is demanding it of you without asking questions. I could stand here and give you data on this virus and the children, the vaccination statistics, the masking, etc. However, I know that everyone here and those who are listening at home have their own educational opinions, their own biased or non-biased opinions. Your opinions and beliefs do not have to be the same as mine. We can and we will disagree on many things, I am sure, and that's okay. Everyone in this country is free to make their own decisions and to have their own opinions. All that I'm asking of you is that you allow parents to make their own decision. With this decision also comes the decision to discontinue sending home everyone just because they were next to someone who might be sick or who tested positive. I take responsibility for my own health decisions and for those that I make for my minor children. I would hope that the people in this community take responsibility for their own decisions, not those of others. We've been made to believe that someone else is to blame when we get sick, when we lose our jobs, when we face a challenge, etc. I've always taught my first graders and my own children that they are responsible for themselves. They make choices which ultimately have consequences. Again, I am taking a huge risk by standing up here in front of you, people who tell the state whether or not I do my job to the best of my ability, and parents and colleagues who may or may not agree with me. All I'm asking is that you are willing to take a risk, just as I have here tonight, and do what's right for our community of learners. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ken Nichols, and I would like to recognize the school board for allowing us to speak. Let's give them a hand of applause, please. And I really appreciate how we settled down. That was really good, okay? I'm proud of you, Tunkhannock. First thing I would like to say is, despite all my best, quote-unquote, scientific being careful last year, my entire family got COVID. God allowed us to get COVID. And we could actually figure out exactly where we got it from. We had been so careful, we knew exactly where we got it from. But we still got it. And in my family of 4, we had a difference of how it affected us. Each one of us, it affected us, somebody differently. My son Thomas had a negative reaction. A negative test. He actually had more of a reaction to COVID than I did. But his test tested negative. The first one. The second one came back and was positive. I missed 1 meal worth of taste. Now, certainly most people don't have that same type of reaction that I did. But I'm 48, so I probably in a more of a susceptible age group, I would think. My wife had it the hardest. She coughed so much that she actually hurt her ribs from coughing. But that was it. Now, I know some people had it a lot worse. I actually counted myself lucky. I was thankful to God that he was so pleased to give me such a mild case of COVID. But you know what? Once I got it, I was even more thankful. Wow, I didn't need to worry anymore. All this fear that had been instilled in me through the news media and everywhere else, I didn't have to worry anymore. I had more antibodies in my body than anybody else, including the vaccinated. Not only that, but the T cells in my body are amazing. Once they learn how to defeat a virus, they've got great memory. I'm up here tonight because my kids asked me to come. This is the first time I've ever spoken at a board meeting. I've never spoken at a board meeting before. My wife has. I've had thoughts. Honestly, I think I have too much ADHD to sit through a board meeting. This is the perfect time to break me in. But I'm here for my kids. They don't want to wear a mask. Even though they had the virus, when they first went back to school, they had to wear a mask. There was no common sense to that at all. Zero common sense. I'm trying to figure out what else I want to say here. I think everybody's kind of beat the horse to death here. So the last thing that I was thinking of that hasn't been addressed is the legality of a mandate. As an American, I don't have to follow the governor's mandate. That doesn't make any sense. There's not a law in the book that says I have to follow what he says. And I don't know who this gentleman here is in the suit, because I couldn't hear your name because you were wearing a mask. But we don't have to follow anything he says. He is actually supposed to follow the law himself, and he doesn't. We have a bicameral body that stands opposed to him. And they very narrowly, I think it was 4 votes. I think it was just 4 votes. And I'm sorry, I don't want to take up too much time, Holly. I think it was just 4 votes. They had enough Democrats cross over to try to limit his authority last year. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So really, there is no mandate. He could say all he wants to, but not only does his mandate not make sense, it's probably the most un-American thing I can think of.
My name is Chris Kowalczyk. I'm a 2001 graduate of Tunkhannock Area School District, back when we were raised to be tigers, not sheep. I'm here this evening because I have a beautiful wife over there, 3 children at home that are a part of the TASD community. I've avoided coming to these meetings for the past 18 months, but I can no longer stand quietly by and watch our school and our community be run onto the ground by state-sanctioned incompetence. The policies our district follows are given to us by a government that does not have our best interest in mind. They do not care about our health or the health of our children. They only care about control and compliance of our population. For those of you that have not studied communism extensively, you're watching it and experiencing it play out in our community and our school in real time. Unfortunately, we're all a part of it right now. Everyone here is exasperated, no matter which side you're on. Many children, teachers, and parents are at their psychological breaking point, or they're already past it. This is how communists subvert and take over a school, a society, and the next generation of young, impressionable minds. They create impossible situations and circumstances designed to push people against one another and divide society. It demoralizes and makes everyone weaker. They silence independent thought and critical thinking. They don't let you question them or their authority. They try to make you believe up is down and left is right. They batter you with nonstop media propaganda and fear until you become mentally broken and unable to think for yourself. Fight back, or even you can't even recognize what the truth is anymore. They want a weak and broken population. It makes everyone easier to control. They are currently using medical tyranny to accomplish their goals. Many of you still have no idea what is going on, and it's way past time for you to all wake up. Contact tracing, it's useless. It's an exercise in futility. It's an absurd waste of time and resources. One kid gets a runny nose, and 5 days later, a dozen healthy kids and a teacher gets sent home for a week. My daughter's currently one of those students. She's perfectly healthy, but she's being discriminated against by an absurd medical mandate that has no basis in reality. Who here is going to answer for my daughter being discriminated against? None of you. You're all creating dysfunction and disarray for hundreds of people and their families. You're not helping anyone stay healthy. You're not saving lives. The kids lose, the teachers lose, the parents lose, and the taxpayers, we always lose. You're practicing the very definition of insanity. The daily phone call about new cases shows up as a telemarketer spam on my phone, and rightfully so. Stop trying to sell fear and ignorance to everyone. The PCR tests, they're not accurate. It's been public knowledge for over a year. You can all look it up. The PCR tests do not provide accurate results. Stop testing your kids. The case numbers will magically disappear. The kids at this school are not at risk of dying from this virus. Many people have already covered this. If you still do not understand this after 18 months, you're being willfully ignorant to the facts and actual data. Your lack of intelligence is becoming a massive burden on our society at this point. Your kids can go to school safely without masks. They will be fine. The masks do not work. Any professional that is trained on OSHA respiratory standards can tell you this. George showed a brief example. Any OSHA professional that's trained in respiratory masks, you can look them up online. You all have a phone in your pockets. You can pull them up. They've given plenty of speeches on them. The masks don't work. The masks limit oxygen intake to an unsafe level. They become a breeding ground for bacteria, and they become a form of physical and psychological torture on the people that you try to force into compliance. It's time to call attempts to mask children what it really is. It's child abuse. All of you pushing it and encouraging it are guilty. I'm sick and tired of watching my wife, my children, and all the children of this district be subjected to a form of satanic ritual abuse. Mask wearing has been used by many cultures throughout history to break people down psychologically and force them to be compliant subjects and slaves. If you don't know what satanic ritual abuse is, look it up, because you are knowingly or unknowingly participating in it. It needs to end immediately. To all the kids listening to this, you are experiencing degrees of conflict escalation that you're being caught in the middle of. It is being pushed by our own government and the media on all of us. Things always start off neutral. Then they tell you it's for the common good, like 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Then it's just a mask. It's only for a little while till we slow the spread. Then they try to coerce you in a very friendly way with a carrot on a stick, a mask break, or a Krispy Kreme in exchange for an experimental needle in your arm. Then they make demands for compliance. Do this or else. They threaten you with removal from school or society, which we are already seeing. They restrict your ability to travel. They take away your ability to buy goods, sell goods, and buy and sell services so you starve. They pit people against one another and make enemies out of the good guys. Then comes civil disobedience and increasing acts of violence by both sides. Look at what's happening in Australia and France for current examples of where our society is headed and where we're being pushed by our own government if we don't stop it all right now. You people that think this will all end when everyone is double jabbed and double masked really need a wake-up call and a reality check. There will be new variants, there will be new viruses, booster shots, mandates, shutdowns, and fear propaganda around every corner. Put the brakes on what you're doing before you drive yourselves off a cliff.
Stop and look around. It's never going to end unless we, the people, end it by not complying. The media is mentally paralyzing many of you with nonstop fear, lies, and propaganda. Stop giving them that power over your mind. We have a school full of little children that are already terrified of everything happening around them. Children that are already carrying too much emotional baggage and trauma on their shoulders and in their hearts and minds. All of their problems they have to bear are created by the adults in their world that don't know any better or don't care. These kids need support. They don't need mask bullying from adults. They need hugs. They do not need social distancing. Harassing children on their buses and in their classrooms by yelling at them to cover their faces is abuse. Trying to push experimental gene therapy shots on children that have zero chance of dying from COVID is abuse. You're not helping anyone. In reality, you're causing psychological issues and trauma that will last years, if not a lifetime. If you can't change your ways and see the light, you guys need to step down. At no time in recorded history have the people forcing others into compliance ever been the good guys. They're always the evil ones, and when you look back in hindsight, it's obvious to see. Open your eyes.
As I said before, my name is Mr. Richard West.
Mr. West, you've spoken.
No, that's not how this is working. Sorry, sir, you only get to talk one time.
Did I get a chance to talk?
Yes, you did.
You already did, yeah.
No, you did not give me a chance to talk.
Yes,
You
said I
did. We
should
determined
not
that I
talk.
graduated with your granddaughter.
I'm sorry.
We determined that I graduated with Vanessa while you were talking last time.
I can't understand you.
Yep, you talked. Yeah, you
I want to
talked
talk
at the
to
beginning.
two issues. One has to do with the use of fear, and the other one has to do with what you can do with a virtual learning environment. And that's what we're headed for. We're going to have virtual as a part of a very important part of the learning system of at any level. And there are some very positive things that I've learned in advertising and other parts of my career, which prove that you can do better. Actually, you can do better in some cases to use virtual stuff if you handle it the right way. The other thing is the use of fear. My grandfather went to the Middle East and changed that university at Beirut to one there was no fear in. And they had just come out of a massacre in the Middle East that killed 11,000 people in a single day. My grandfather was not involved in it, but he was right there when it happened. What I'm saying is he knew you could not teach. You could not learn in a fear environment. And he did specific steps to change that. And it's been recognized down through the years by that university as a big turnaround. A man in my class at Princeton was the son of the guy who was in charge of the team that set up that university. And he was shot and killed. He had been made the president of the university. He was shot and killed and thrown in the trunk of a car to build up fear. There's people in the world that have to get fear to get what they want to do done. And I'm saying to you, don't go that way. Don't use fear. Fear will be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. Thank you.
To prevent it from being a fearful thing.
Thank you. I think there's someone else waiting
I'm
to talk
sorry
now.
to take too much of your time.
It was not too much. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, board, for being here tonight. My name is Heather Ramey. I have a son in 5th grade here. I am completely pro-mask. I am pro-multiple layers of public health if that's what this takes to get this over with and done. But I'm here for my son tonight. My son was taken out of school last year. He has a 504 plan. I am beyond grateful for the accommodations and the people that are in this school district. I am beyond grateful for the teachers who I was able to reach out to make sure that this home environment and virtual world worked out for him. Because honestly, it sucked. It sucked for him, it sucked for me, but I reached out to the teachers. We reached out to the counselors. You guys have a wonderful CSBBH program in this school. I realize that you might have your hands tied when it comes to whatever mandate is coming down at you, But as you come up with any kind of accommodations for these kids, I hope that you realize how many wonderful people that are in your district that can help with these mental health issues, and that they get to have access to these kids the way that they really need to, because that's what's really important, is the mental health in this whole thing right now. That's what I've seen from a personal level, and I hope that when you guys take this off and discuss it later, that that's brought into your conversation. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Chris Rogers. I have 4 kids here. First off, I want to know, what does the school board do? What are you in charge of?
The school district. The district.
You got to speak up.
The district.
Okay, so you're making choices for us and stuff.
Educationally? how we
Yes.
operate.
Well, give us the choice. Give our
within
kids the
state
choice.
guidelines. Within state mandates and guidelines.
I can't hear you. I run heavy equipment, so.
He's saying he has to follow a mandate.
Yeah, the governor's nothing. He's done. It's his last term. He ain't going nowhere else. He's just trying to control us. Give us a choice. When I went to school, I played football. It was Tiger Pride. Let's fight. Well, you guys are on the board. You're supposed to fight for the school. Fight for our education. Our kids need to be maskless if they want. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. The same thing with racist. How can you, you call somebody racist, but how isn't this? Mask or no mask? Who cares? Let them do what they want. Just grow a backbone. Stand up for the education system. Just like the online stuff, my son almost failed. My daughter went to summer school. She couldn't do it. It's a piss poor system. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Ray Depew. I have one daughter in 10th grade, one that graduated last year, sort of in honors. I think the cyber system is complete garbage. And I think the contract tracing is a complete waste of time. And I got a very scary flashback last week when the kids were sent home because somebody had something somewhere. If you guys are mandated by the state, I don't expect anyone to give up their jobs to say, we're not going to make anybody wear masks. That's just ridiculous. I understand that. What I don't want to see is my kids back at home having their education destroyed because your cyber system is complete garbage. I had 2 high honors students. We've only been in this school district 2 years, but before we moved here, neither of my daughters had ever gotten a grade under a 98 in their entire careers. Last year, my youngest daughter missed the honor roll 2 classes she had in the 70s, and the others weren't great. Now we're back in school full time. She's back to hundreds across the board. My biggest fear is that the kids go home again. So I don't want to put my foot down and say no masks, because if that's what it takes to keep them in school, then I'm willing to compromise. But I think a better system needs to be in place. If you got to make them wear them on the bus, you got to make them wear them in the hallway for short periods of time, fine. But they should not have to wear them in class or when they're in a lunchroom. It makes absolutely no sense when we go out to a restaurant or a movie theater and we're in a room full of people with no masks. It just makes no sense. So I understand there's a mandate, but it seems to me it should be limited by common sense. Thank you.
My name's Shelby King. I have 3 kids in the school. I have a 2nd grader that decides that she's okay with wearing a mask, and that's fine by me. I have a 6th grader that was sent home Wednesday because he refused. When called, I said he has asthma. They told me that it didn't matter and that he could learn at home. How is that any accommodations for him?
There's a procedure to determine if there's a medical condition.
We
There's a
can't hear you.
procedure if there's a medical condition that, to
I told
determine that.
them that he has asthma, and I was told it doesn't matter, he can learn at home.
It takes more than just a parent saying so.
What's that?
It takes more than just a parent to say so.
The way that we were approaching it up to this point was that until we put a mechanism in place that we were going to just go on the high end. So at that time, there was no exception policy or procedure, which hopefully we'll vote on something tonight that is amenable to at least 5 people here that can vote for it. But yeah, prior to that, that was the very short-term accommodation that was put in place.
So my son needs to be punished because he has a health condition for now?
I'm not saying I like that, but that's why we're here tonight, to come up with something better, hopefully.
Also, my 8th grader was sent home, or she wasn't sent home. I got a call on the 4th that she was exposed on the 31st. That was 3 days after she was exposed, that she was in the school walking around. That was before the mask mandate. I was called on the 4th and got an email on the 6th. Now she's quarantined, but my other 2 can go to school if they wish. Where's the logic in this?
The state has guidelines on how the close contact and quarantine is to be determined.
Okay, but that was 3 days after she was exposed.
So there have been, I know this has kept coming up, so I'll just say it now. If the school doesn't find out that a kid had symptoms and was at school, let's say in that case that she was a contact on the 30th. If the school doesn't find out that that kid was sick or had COVID or anything like that, and then someone reports it to the school on the 4th, they still have to go, no, that's for me, I guess. They still have to go back to those kids that were exposed before. It's not that they're holding that information or just being slow about it or whatever. I can vouch for the fact that we had 6 members of our team working 12-hour days through the whole holiday weekend doing the contact tracing, and there were a lot of situations, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, where they were finding out that there was another case, but they're not finding out until the kid had stayed home maybe for a couple days with symptoms, and then they get tested, and then the result comes back like 2 days later, and then they call the school. So there has been no situation where administration is withholding contact tracing information, and that has come up many times, and people have been very frustrated about it, but they literally do that. I mean, that people think that we were closed on Tuesday, not closed, virtual, on Tuesday because of case numbers, and that is not the situation. We were virtual because there was that much more, there were so many things coming into the district, they hadn't been able to contact trace all of it to let kids know, whether you agree with the contact tracing guidance that we have or not, to let them know they needed to not come to school. So was all that fair and accurate? Okay, so that is what is causing this delay at times. So
Okay, but where's the logic of my 8th grader's home, but my 2nd grader and my 6th grader can go to school? They're in the same house, they breathe the same air.
in theory,
She showed no symptoms.
if she had symptoms, then they should stay home. We didn't write that. That's not something that we ever had a vote to adopt. That's just what we were given from the Department of Health as to how to conduct contact tracing.
But it's absolutely absurd. Now she's struggling because the teachers don't even want to put the stuff online for them.
Yeah, I can't speak to that, but
She's begging for her work, and your teachers can't provide it for her because she's quarantined. It's educational discrimination, and it's absurd.
If you are having trouble getting if you're having trouble getting the assignments, I invite you to contact Mr. Bosher, and he will make sure that they're posted.
I shouldn't have to do that.
Good evening. I'm Ann DeMarco, a parent of 5 kids. 2 are out of this district, 3 are in it now. I also teach 4th grade here. And I know some of my parents are here, and I want to speak, I think, first for my own children who are so happy to be back in the classroom. I have a 7th grader, a 9th grader, and an 11th grader. They're excited to be playing soccer, they're excited to be in the play, and they are okay with wearing masks because they believe that's what's going to keep them here. So I feel like my classroom, now I'm going to shift to Ann DeMarco, the teacher, I feel like my classroom might have more students in it, and my grade level, if we had started with masks, I miss the kids who were not there. However, as a teacher, I am working hard every day to know and greet each child with enthusiasm who comes in my classroom. I am having morning meetings to connect with them on a social and emotional level. I am providing engaging content to try and close the gaps and assess where they are. And it's hard, but I'm doing it, and I'm working hard to do it. I was cyber last year, and I missed the mess and the energy of it every day. So I just want to make it clear that there's plenty of us who are not here tonight that are okay with the masks and okay with that decision, and hope that we will continue to work. And I would just ask everybody to to continue to listen, to be open to what your teachers are doing and to communicate with them, because I am working hard as a teacher to make it a warm place. I am working hard to reach out to my students who are not there with daily messages and following up with them, and I am going to make it work. So that's my charge here, is to be the educator, and I am going to do it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ava Robinson, and I'm an 8th grade student at the high school. I just wanted to say that I only have a few things to say because it's all been covered, but I just wanted to say that last year when I was in 7th grade, I had a hybrid schedule like everybody else did, and I was in the STEM Academy, and before that I had never gotten a grade below a 90 on my report card in my entire life, and I passed with an 80 into Algebra 1 this year, which was really hard for me to deal with, and I've been doing cyber since Wednesday, and it's impossible. I don't know if anybody has tried to learn algebra through a computer, but you can't do it. It's not possible. And that was really hard for me, and right now, hopefully when I go back into school tomorrow, there's one kid in my class that I'm friends with that hasn't been quarantined. The other 2 were quarantined from a girl that they haven't even met before on their volleyball team, which isn't even fair. They didn't even know who she was, and they're quarantined for 2 weeks from school. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know how that works, and they haven't even showed any symptoms either. None of it. That's all I have to say.
And I'm Ava's dad, Adam. Just want to thank everybody for coming out here today, and also just to let you guys know, bottom line, it all comes down to money and funding, and we don't want you to be scared about funding cut, because everybody here as a community will stand behind you in the decision to let our kids use their right and for our Constitution to make that choice on their own if they want to wear a mask or not. And we will not stand down here, and we will not stand down to the high up at the government. We will fight until the end. It's our freedom. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Lupinski, and first of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight and doing what you're doing. I'd also like to thank all the parents for being here, and I am grateful to all of you. I am a graduate of Tunkhannock Area High School. I'm a former 3rd grade teacher in the district. I am also a former preschool teacher and director, but The most important job that I will ever have is a mother. And I am the mom of 2 boys in the district, an 8th grader and a 10th grader. And I have seen their mental and emotional health suffer the past few years. Whether it be working for hours on a school project only to have a failed upload due to our disastrous internet, or to be excited for an extracurricular event or a band performance only to have it canceled. And I understand that your job is difficult and that the mandates make it even more difficult to be in your position. I understand that it comes down to the funding. But I also see this meeting as a microcosm of the environment in our country as a whole. And we, as adults and parents, we need to set the example for our children. We need to treat each other with respect and love, regardless of our opinions. And as a parent, my main concern is the disruption to the educational process that is happening due to contact tracing and the tracking of positive cases. My family had COVID. It's no joke. We all had it differently. I had it the worst. But our children need to be in school. They need structure, and they need to know what to expect and not be afraid of what's coming, whether it be illness or a quarantine. So parents, let's beat the system. We don't need to do it with force and violence. We can do it quietly and with strength. We need to be responsible. If our children are sick, we must keep them home. If we are worried whether or not it is COVID, we can go and buy an over-the-counter test to see. If it's positive, we can keep them home for the recommended time or until their symptoms subside. But we don't need to necessarily go get a PCR test, which is reported to the government and to the school. No PCR test, no contact tracing, which means healthy children get to stay in school. And our administrators get to put their efforts and their energy where it belongs. When our children are regularly in school, they feel safe, they feel protected, and I hope they feel loved. So let's keep that as our main focus, and let's allow cooler heads to prevail. Thank you, teachers, for all you are doing. You have a daunting task. And thank you, administrators and school board.
No, George.
No.
No.
I appreciate that. So as to let you know, you can say no, I'm going to let you say no. And what's going to happen is an egregious violation to the Sunshine Act. Because he spoke to, you don't know if you want that because you lose your qualified immunity. He spoke, she spoke for 14 minutes. I just want uninterrupted
The whole thing's been out of
minutes.
control, and the whole thing
It's
has
not
started
out of control. It got under control. The only reason it was out of control is I had to make sure I got all my legal points on YouTube because everybody here is on notice now. Everything I spoke about is legal. There was no hyperbole, no personal interjection. Everybody on the board, you need to go review the YouTube video. Everything that I said and anything I asked somebody to say puts you on notice for willful neglect. So it's absurd, right?
What doesn't these days?
That's okay, and I appreciate that. Just know this, hide your treasures, because when you lose your qualified immunity, that's what's going to happen. They come for you individually. You don't get protected by the district. So please don't interrupt me so you don't get egregious sunshine violation. He spoke twice. She spoke for 14 minutes. We're on YouTube. It will be egregious, and it is more expensive.
It's fine. I will take it.
Okay,
you know
well,
what?
I'm still
If this
gonna
board
speak.
wants to put up with that, which I know they don't, so if anybody else wants to speak up,
It
go
is
for it.
literally
But I am
legal.
done.
It is. You could be done,
So,
but
can
I'm
we
not.
cut that mic, Chuck? I had a goal tonight of getting something done that would give exception, and it came out here, and it was going to be a tight vote. I don't know that it'll go that way because of the way things have gone out there tonight. That's fine. So I have one final. This is not. So this is a letter from this is not precedent setting, but there is another teacher that wanted to be here tonight so badly to speak, and she's unable because of quarantine right now. So with your permission, I would like to read her statement. And this is from Marie Vizorek. Members of the Tunkhannock Area School Board and Superintendent McPherson, I wish I could be there with you to share my thoughts. Unfortunately, I'm quarantined at home with my girls. It's been told it feels like a scarlet letter, but it's okay to be sick, despite what we are being led to believe these days. My name is Marie Vizorek. I have been a TASD teacher since 2003, and I am currently in year 5 as our district's instructional coach. It is because of this position that I have decided to communicate the thoughts shared by so many educators afraid to speak out. We are the good guys, the gentle leaders, the problem solvers, the reasonable, rational rule followers. Our objective will always be to support our children. I think I can best illustrate my position by sharing my experiences over the last 18 months. I left the country for a stem cell transplant in January of 2020. It was the most challenging time of my life. Aside from being away from my beautiful girls for a month, I endured painful injections, chemotherapy, and immune system ablating infusions. For the first time ever, my outside matched my insides, as MS had been pretty easy to hide up until then. As we prepared for the already stressful flights home, the coronavirus hit the news. We flew home on February 2nd, 2020, with my N95 mask as my only defense. It was terrifying. The months that followed were worse. We pulled our kids from school a week before the world shut down. My husband lived in our camper so that he could continue working, shopping, living, so that we could make our bubble. We missed school, family, and church. My follow-up care took a major hit. I was intended to receive regular blood work and visits to my hematologist, but fear dictated that we watch and wait, and that we did. I slowly watched as my hair grew back and my body became strong again. I recovered and my blood recovered too. I know the fear response involved in being one of these vulnerable people that requires shielding. I was able to work from home while my kids attended a learning pod and had the layer of protection necessary to survive 2020. But it is 2021 now, and we have so much more information. Since my blood has fully recovered, I have returned to work full-time in person. There is still a virus, and I have made the choice to send my children back to school without masks. It is my choice. I have a fundamental right to make decisions concerning their upbringing, education, and care. I know from my HSCT training that only an N95 mask provides some viable protection against this illness. I also know that they are unbearable to wear, even as an adult. I have chosen to wear them at times in close proximity with my students as I'm still building my new immune system. That is also my choice. Not once did I expect anyone to wear a mask on my account, and most certainly not a healthy child. I am so deeply saddened for our children that they have already witnessed so much in their short lives. Now they have to feel like they are not allowed at school. It is imperative that we rebuild a culture where it is okay to wear a mask, and it is okay not to wear a mask. We are being pitted against one another. Our schools are being bullied by our state, and we deserve to have our voices heard. Our young children come to us as these wide-eyed blank slates, ready to be filled up with the knowledge of our world. They learn what our expressions mean and how and when to express soft signals of their own. As it stands, we have schools filled with blank stares. Overheated, masked bodies sitting, waiting for a normalcy that may never return if we don't take a stand. All over the world, people are figuring out the truth. They are asking the tough questions just as we tell our students to do. For example, what happens when children grow up relying on hand sanitizers in an already heavily sanitized environment? Have you heard of antibiotic-resistant bacteria? What happens to a generation raised to fear being too close to one another? In a day of the highest rates of social anxieties on record. What are the long-term implications of masking? Keeping in mind that when used incorrectly, lead to a multitude of negative effects on top of the documented, underlined, 20% oxygen depletion that we can actually feel. Do the research, think for yourself, find your voice, and speak up. I encourage our school board and Superintendent McPherson to allow for exemptions to the mask order. It will not be the easy path, but it is the road to the world in which we once lived. Respectfully, Marie Vizorek, teacher leader.
Thank you. We'll move on to enrollments. On pages 4 to 5 for your review. Item 5 is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion? Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Hey, Phil, this is John. I need to have somebody move this computer so I can hear something, because I can't hear what's being talked amongst the board members.
That's all right, John. We'll tell you how to vote.
We're voting on the minutes, John.
Yeah, somebody's just going to have to probably tell me what Phil's saying.
We're voting on the minutes. Can you hear that?
We're voting on the minutes.
Yeah, I can see you, Phil, but we'll just see if I can hear you when you go ahead and make a motion.
We have a motion and a second to vote on the minutes.
Are you asking for one?
I'm saying, I'm
Okay, I
telling
didn't
John,
hear.
hopefully. John, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to vote on the minutes from the prior meetings. I'm asking for a roll call.
Mrs. Bennett? Yes. Mrs. Gregory? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Twilley? Yes. Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
I'm here too. Prabol is here. Prabol is there too.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for joining us. Item 6, Superintendent's Report.
I'm asking for a motion to approve items 1 through 8 in the superintendent's report.
Motion.
Do a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gregory? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Swilly? Yes. Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett? Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes. Did we get Mr. Pabolo?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Do you have anything else, Heather?
No.
Okay. On the unfinished business, do we have a report of students in dual enrollment?
Hold it, Bill.
Yeah, Lori had requested that we schedule a curriculum committee meeting
With the head teachers also.
with head teachers.
Yes.
Being invited.
Yes.
Okay, when do you guys want to meet?
I'm good any day next week, probably except for Tuesday.
I'm good any day next week after 4 o'clock every single day.
Mrs. Spilly? You're on the committee.
I'm good after 7, Monday to Wednesday, and then anytime Thursday and Friday. And we ain't doing Friday.
So, Thursday?
Yep, that's good with me.
What time was best for you, Mr. Swilly?
Anytime.
Any time. So Heather, Mary Jean?
I will make time.
Whenever you want.
Well, then why don't we just say like 4:30?
Okay.
That way it's not super late if there are teachers that are being invited that want to attend.
Okay.
And when the invite goes out to the teacher, can you please CC all of the committee people?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that will be at the administration building?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
The admin building, 2nd floor. What date is that, Holly? I'm sorry.
16th?
16th.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, we have a report of dual enrollment programs on page 38 for information only. Item 2 is clarification of masking policy. Currently,
So I think there's a couple different ways we can go with this. I'm going to throw a motion out there for my absolute preference, and then we'll work from there. My preference, given the fact that we have a mandate, and the mandate does not specify, and we had our legal representative here tonight, correct me if I misstate any of this, please, was that if we were to choose something lesser than a 504, it seems that as long as we are still complying with the mandate, the legal exposure at that rate was that the district, if a student actually had, so there's a 504 process for anybody who's curious, that requires if a student has a medical disability, the district has to identify them. They have an obligation to identify them and provide accommodations. So if we have a parent exemption form stating that a student has a medical disability or mental health or potential for a medical disability, that there would be an obligation that exists to put them through the Act 504 evaluation process. That is the extent of the missing a child in that way, if we don't put them all through the 504 process, could expose the school district down the road to litigation. It does not expose individual board members. It's the district or superintendent. It exposes the district as a whole. And the potential for that litigation, nobody knows how that would work out or if it would ever even happen. Keeping all that in mind, I'm going to make a motion for we follow the mandate, offering an exemption using a form letter similar to that which Montrose Area School District was using, and require that the parent guardian signature be notarized, but no doctor's note. So that is my motion on the floor.
Bill, have you called for discussion?
It needs a second.
It needs a second. Do we have a
Okay,
second?
sorry, I couldn't hear, I apologize.
Lori seconded it.
But wait, now I want clarification. That is a notarized letter for an exemption with no medical needed.
With no doctor's note. This is where I'm starting.
Okay.
This is what I would feel walking out of here was a great success. Montrose is also represented by the same legal counsel that we use with Sweet Stevens, and they basically took the verbiage of, well, I had forwarded it all to you prior to this meeting, within the last week. Took the verbiage of this section 3, and then they have an option, they just have it signed by the parent or guardian. I would take it that extra step if it gave some board members a different level of comfort to ask that signature be notarized, which costs $5 at Steve's Title and Tag if you need it, if it's approved. So.
That I can second. That I can agree with.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So,
Discussion
go ahead.
from the audience?
Bill, go ahead.
Board members.
I have a question, and I hope you guys can hear me. I'm on Zoom.
Yes, Mr.
So,
Pivolo.
is there a medical healthcare provider aspect of the proposed motion?
No.
There's not a doctor's note. It takes the verbiage from there, and the parent has to identify whether it's a medical condition, mental health condition, disability, or a medical condition or disability documented in a 504 plan or IEP. So that is the only legal exposure with this plan that we are anticipating could even be an issue, would be not identifying and properly going through the 504 plan for a student who would have applicable medical or mental health conditions.
So I have a question, I guess, for our council. In the exemption rule, it's the necessary, it has to be a medical condition that's diagnosed. Is that the way I read the mandate exemption?
The way it uses the phrase medical condition, and everything the board member, I'm sorry, everything
Holly.
you said, Holly said, is accurate, but I should note that notwithstanding the fact that we work with Montrose, that our recommendation as a firm is that you should not have 2 tiers of students with medical conditions, that all of it should be treated the same way under Section 504. So the motion on the floor allows just a parent affidavit. The order itself does not define what's required to establish a medical condition, and that's where we are.
And just to clarify, for what I'm proposing, there's no known individual liability involved.
That's correct. Because it's still within the scope, at least as of right now, still within the scope of what the order would permit, because PDE recommends using that 504 process, but they did not require it. So it's still within the scope of the order. There is liability. The liability would be to the district rather than individual administrators or board members. But nevertheless, because of the liability to the district, that's why we've made the recommendation we have.
So I just have a couple of things. I apologize again for not being there, but if CJ is still in the crowd, this is a high school student who, unfortunately, I was on about a 30-second delay, so I didn't see the circumstances of it until it already played out. But it's embarrassing that he was silenced by the crowd when everyone that got up and spoke was asking to be heard, and you did that to a kid in our high school. So I just want to first call that out, and I'll apologize for the board for not stopping it. Second of all, I think it's important for us to remember, we heard this from several people, I think it's critically important that our job is to keep kids in school. And so whether we like it or not right now, we are not a lawmaking body. The school board doesn't set the law. We are required to follow the law. And currently that law requires us to wear masks. Nobody likes it. We're going to have to continue to try to do this to try to keep kids in school. We heard loud and clear last year that having remote education, virtual education, and again here today, was suboptimal. So I think our best shot at keeping kids in school is to follow the order as designed. It's not our job as board members to interpret the law. We pay a solicitor plenty of money to do that, and they have given their recommendation. So I agree with everything Holly said, except we should be requiring the doctor's note and/or following through on the 504 process. That's what we do for everyone else in the district that requires a 504. If my child had a 504, it would not be an affidavit or a notarized note. As our solicitor said, there's a process to follow, and I believe we should be following it.
So to be clear, that is, we would be following the mandate if we had if this was approved.
We're following your interpretation of the mandate. Our solicitor
No. The solicitor said it. Are we following the solicitor, sir? Can you please clarify? Are we following the mandate if we were to pass something to what I just made a motion for?
It is within the scope of the mandate because right now PDE only recommends the 504 process.
Right.
But I should also add to the other side of the coin, if you don't follow the 504 process, you have some liability. The district does. If you do follow the 504 process, there's virtually no liability. So you are correct that your motion would still be within the four corners of the mandate.
So a couple things I just wanted to say about this. Parents know their kids. So if my kid is having an anxiety issue, maybe it isn't to the level of a 504 plan, but it's impeding their learning because of the mask or because of this trauma with a lowercase t, PTSD that we're accomplishing here. We didn't make the mandate. I'm not blaming any board member or administrator here for the mandate. The mandate was probably the worst written thing I've ever seen come from them, which is saying a lot because what it did was put this big old block out there and then said, okay, school board, you don't have to really enforce it, but you have to enforce it. You can make other exemptions. It actually says in one of the sections, not in all three, but in one of the sections, that all it is a stated exemption. So whether we want to say that we have a choice or we don't, the bottom line is that we as a school board do have a choice right now. And we can make that decision. And we're going to make that. We all have our own level of risk mitigation or risk that we'll accept in our lives. Whether it's you wearing your seatbelt or not, whether it's the fact that I'm sitting up here without a bulletproof vest. There's a real good chance I'm not getting shot tonight, but I would be safer with one on. We have moved the goalposts so many times. We had a plan. We recommended masks. We're not going to be changing the guts of our contact tracing policy. So there were students choosing to wear masks because whether it made sense or not, if you had a mask on, the quarantine stuff was different. And some kids just want to be in school. And I will say my kids are some of them. Like, they weren't really wearing them before, but they don't have any interest right now in fighting and not wearing it, and that's okay with me. Because if they're comfortable wearing it, I'm comfortable with them wearing it. I'm sorry. When we voted on our health and safety plan, we said that it didn't change, masking didn't change short of a vote or mandate. A mandate showed up, and the mandate could change. We could go through all this tonight, and they finally realize that the wording is terrible, and they come out tomorrow and say, well, now you have to have a 504 plan. And at that time, I'm not going to sit up here and say we should go against that, because then liability does change. And I'm not going to ever ask anybody up here to put their house on the line over something like this when the fight actually needs to take place at a level above Tunkhannock Area School District. We have moved the goalpost 100 times, it feels like. That has happened on a national level, that has happened on a state level, and that has happened here at Tunkhannock. We started last year, everything was, we get through the first quarter, we're gonna be able to do this. Then the cases go up. And it's like, oh, we're not gonna be able to do this, we're gonna have to stay hybrid, we're gonna have to keep wearing only school masks. That was the fight last year. All these things. Then we had to wait for the vaccine. The vaccine is here, lo and behold, and I'm not anti-vaccine, I'm vaccinated. I also had COVID. My kids aren't vaccinated. It's a choice. So my whole thing was, we have the vaccine, and now vaccinated people are getting sick, and vaccinated people are spreading the virus. And does that make our contact tracing seem absolutely ludicrous and absurd? It sure does. Is it what was handed to us? It sure is. And they're just trying to make the best of it. Throughout this process, people have been getting sick for a really long time. There are 5 million kids as of, and I took this from the AAP website, because I know that that rings a little stronger with some other people. 5 million children have tested positive for COVID in the US. 400 and some have succumbed to that, and they've, by and large, had significant medical issues on top of that. This is not a risk to our children. And we had a letter that said, well, how will a child feel if they take it home to a family member? That family member can be vaccinated now. That was one of the goalposts that we keep moving. We don't need to keep doing this. We are following the mandate. If we allow for an exemption, we are not carrying liability that is anything more concerning to me than half the other stuff that we do. There was recommendations that we mask all of the kids, and we didn't do that either. I don't feel that this is a health concern. This is built on convenience and compliance. And we don't mask kids out of convenience. We don't mask kids out of compliance. If there was a true health risk to these children, I'd probably be saying otherwise. But you can't say, even if I'm not someone who truly believes in the fact that the mask cuts back the oxygen all that much, that kind of thing. I know that it's not better than not being masked when the risk is nothing to these kids. It was 0 to 0.03% result in death according to the AAP. So that's where I'm at. We are in compliance. We all just have to make a choice on this board now. If the risk of legal exposure of someday someone says we missed a kid with a 504 is worth forcing kids into masks without allowing an exception that is allowed by the mandate, that's the vote for each board member to make.
I'm not sure if this was mentioned tonight too. The other thing, just real quick, is I believe there's 216 kids in quarantine. So I know there's been a lot of conversation about that, but that's over 10% of our student body. We can't continue to operate like that. So we can blame the governor if we want to, but we were headed to wearing masks anyway because it's too disruptive to education with the current contact tracing rules. We don't have the luxury of making them. Believe me, they're super complicated. Heather, I'd request that we get some education out, at least posted somewhere on what those contact tracing rules are in a simple format on our website. We've obviously heard that frustration from the crowd, but knowing that, we obviously can't continue to operate the way we are now. We want kids in school. We heard, again, loud and clear, they don't learn virtually. So let's move on with what we think is the best way to keep our kids in school.
But let's also keep in mind that parents are making a choice knowing what that exposure risk is. So honestly, as much as I might support so many of you that got up here tonight, if you choose not to have your kid in a mask and they get quarantined for 2 weeks every month all year long, that is like, that's the way that's going to go until the mandate, until the contact tracing changes. So we're all making a choice. My point is that it should be an informed choice. The children should be informed, especially the high schoolers, and the parents need to be informed, which is why I posted and tried to share the heck out of the last meeting where we explained contact tracing so that people understood that when you exercise the right to not wear a mask, that you're putting yourself out there for an exposure, not necessarily to be sick, but a disruption to your child's education.
And Holly, if I may, I'm going to just talk, if I can, to one point that you said. if people choose not to wear the mask, that can also impact the other kids that want to stay in place and get a quality education, because I think we already heard from the community that all this disruption in in-person education is not good for the teachers and the students that are in there. Mr. Burke just said we've got 200 plus students out. While I don't like the mandate and I don't like the situation, and it is what it is, and I did hear one or two or more parents say the doctors know the child or the patient the best. And I believe that having that medical documentation or that medical reasoning just supports the safety for the kids and keeping as many kids in school as possible to avoid that cyber. So that's my only point in expressing, I guess, addition what you just said.
But there are ways to mitigate that, Bill. Is my belief is that if I am sending my kid to school with a mask on because I don't want him to or her to be exposed, I communicate with my child's teacher, and those of us who are advocating for choice have to understand that there are consequences to choices, right, in any direction. So if we want our kid to be in the classroom and not have to wear a mask, then maybe the teacher has to do some subtle changing in the seating arrangements to accommodate a kid, because if they're within 3 to 6 feet of your kid and your kid's not wearing a mask, and they are, and they're gonna have to go home too. And we have to be able to respect that. So I wouldn't say segregating, no, they're still in the same classroom. I'm not talking about sending kids down the hall and setting them in a room by themselves with no windows. But they have a choice, and their choice is not being respected as long as a kid without a mask is sitting 3 to 6 feet from a kid with one, if the parent of the kid with the mask had requested through their teacher, like to have that, seat the kids on the corners or something like that. It's not separate from the group, but that's going to be an issue depending on how many parents choose this option. But again, it's a choice, and it's a calculated risk that is taken, which we do all the time. And board members, we have a choice, so.
Okay, so I do have a question, and I think it warrants talk.
I don't think yours is on.
No, it is. Apparently, I'm just not close enough. So my question is with the face shield in the contact tracing, because we've all heard that nobody really likes the whole quarantine idea. So from what I read in the mandate and the CDC website, is a face shield as treated as no mask as far as contact tracing. So if a child was wearing a face shield, they would still be under quarantine the same as a child without a mask. Am I correct? And we assume that that's the way it is right now. Okay.
Anybody else on the board?
So Holly's motion with the getting an exception means that the child doesn't have to wear a mask, getting all the paperwork, correct?
This motion, yes, it would require a notarized letter. That would be something that we could, format to Tunkhannock.
I just wanted to be perfectly clear that with that, your motion and the notarized letter, the child doesn't have to wear a mask.
This is McPherson and it's
Yes.
like a sheriff's something.
No.
No, they
No.
don't.
No.
Yes, they do.
George, stop.
This is a new.
All right.
Hold
This is
it.
a board meeting. Have some respect.
Hold it, time out. George, excuse me. This is a new,
It is a new.
No! You got kids in the school district.
It's a new motion.
Then shut your goddamn mouth.
Let him speak.
Whoa. Time didn't.
it's a new topic, it's a new motion, and we owe George 2 minutes because of a new motion.
If you don't have the goddamn kids
Venus.
shut up!
Say that again.
He does. Venus, sit down. What I said is...
Ask the officer to take him out.
Mr. Banos, please sit down. let me speak. Please let me
I'll
speak.
tell you what, George, let's both go outside so we let them get to their deal.
Come on. We don't want it to go this
Not
direction.
helping.
I'm not going to hit them. I want both of us to the cause of the problem now. So we can go outside and they can make the decision. Come on, George.
Go ahead, Lori.
Mr. Banos, hold on a second here. Let me say something. We just made a new motion. We usually ask if there's discussion that pertains to the motion.
On the board.
On the board.
Now, correct, on the board. However,
I have never, as many years as sitting on here, you guys had your chance. It's our discussion time. That's all I'm saying. Do what you want to do, George.
George, you
Stop.
had your opportunity.
If it's a sunshine violation, come after me, George. I'm over it.
Oh my gosh. All right, can we get a roll call unless there's more discussion to be had?
Let's roll call.
Have him removed.
Any board members have anything to discuss?
No, let's do
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Dr. Perbola?
No.
This is illegal.
Mr. Swilly?
This is illegal. I don't believe in Governor Wolf, and I don't believe that the kids should have to wear the mask, but I've seen the liability come in other areas in the school district in my 16 years sitting on the board. No.
Here's Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory?
No.
Mrs. Arnold?
Absolutely.
Mr. Farr?
No.
So my next motion would be that we would allow an exemption, and in that event, they would wear a notarized exemption, they would wear a face shield, and need to have the 504 action to have no mask at all, as a compromise.
Is there a second?
No official actions can happen on new business.
Is there a second from somebody on the board?
I didn't hear you.
George, it's unfinished business, so that's why they're allowed to continue on it. It's unfinished business.
They made changes to the motion.
Is there another motion for my amended motion?
I'm not seeing one, Holly.
Okay, I
All
want to
right,
make,
well
can I
then,
make a
somebody else
motion,
needs to
Phil?
make a motion.
Go ahead, John.
I'd like to make a motion that we will require a letter from a medical provider and/or a review through the 504 process stating the diagnosis and how wearing a face covering would impact that health condition or disability. This is specifically addressed at Section 3 of the order of where there will be exceptions. In addition, I also move to add the following language to our disciplinary code. Refusal to adhere to board-approved health and safety rules can result in discipline following any unexcused refusal to comply.
That is absurd, John.
Holly, I don't know where you get off telling me I'm
Hold
absurd, but I
on, we
don't
can't
think
hear you, hold on.
John, I couldn't hear that.
Stop.
John, I couldn't hear the last part.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We couldn't hear your last comment.
I didn't, did you hear the end of the motion? I didn't say anything else.
I'm going to object to that because there's nothing on this agenda to change that policy tonight, and that, therefore, it can't be voted on without a vote of the board to do so.
So which part, Holly,
The change of the policy.
Right. Mr. Burke, I agree with Holly on that distinction, and also it would be two motions anyway. Right now, on the agenda was the mask exemption policy, the clarification of the masking policy. I will also say that from our perspective, and I know there are other opinions here, you don't actually need separate authority to just follow the regular discipline procedure the way you would for someone who is running in the hallway or otherwise jeopardizing health and safety. That mechanism already exists. So I guess I'm inviting that at a minimum we make it two separate motions, or that you withdraw the second part.
So that's unnecessary, so we strike that from the motion.
Okay, so your motion is just to follow the 504 procedures, correct?
Correct.
We need a motion for that.
So then, if I can, because everybody was talking there, and I kind of muffled up a little bit. So the only motion that's on the floor right now is just the medical condition and the medical documentation. There's no disciplinary action attached to this motion.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Barbolo.
Can John read that again, please? The motion? Can you have John restate the motion?
John, can you restate the motion, please?
Yes. So we're following the masking order from the PA Department of Health. We are clarifying the exemptions under Section 3 of the order. So the motion is to require a letter from a medical provider and/or review through the 504 process stating the diagnosis and how wearing a face covering would impact that health condition or disability.
Everyone clear?
My question on that is, the 504 policy already exists. Why are we making a motion on it? The procedures are already there.
No, we need to vote on something because if not,
We already
then it
said-
just is going to revert back and put everything on the superintendent to make that decision, and that is not fair because this board needs to vote to make their choice known by voice vote. So we had a motion in a second.
Any other discussion?
Is it open to the public?
No.
No.
I want you to say no on the record.
Great. No, 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 no. Voice vote.
Roll call.
Dr. Cavola,
Yes.
Mr. Swilly,
It's already there, but yeah.
Mr. Widener,
No.
Mr. Burke,
Yes?
Mrs. Bennett,
No.
Mrs. Gregory,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold,
No.
Mr. Clark.
Yes. All right, moving on. New business. On the new business, we have rapid COVID testing administered by school with parental permission.
Everybody's so sick, and their kids going over 2 million. Good job, guys.
Heather, how do you feel about pushing this to the next meeting, that topic?
Every year, every night, thanks.
I move that we table that till the next meeting.
Okay. We can table that.
Number 1.
Item 2, Department of Health antibody testing program option.
Okay, so in the process of researching all this stuff over the last week, I found that there's actually a provision with the Pennsylvania Department of Health that would, so right now if you've tested positive for COVID, you get a 90-day grace period basically, that you don't have to worry about being close contact to somebody for 90 days after you've tested positive. The CDC, Allison Beam, the acting Secretary of Health, released this advisory that specifically says that it is applicable to schools, that says if you are deemed a close contact, that you can go get an antibody test, and if it is positive, you can get, if within 7 days of being identified as a close contact, if you get this test, that you would basically be treated as someone who is vaccinated. You come back to school, you wear a mask, you know, which everybody will be doing anyway, but the same way that we've been doing that. So I would like our school to allow this. I mean, it's allowed by the Department of Health. It hasn't been offered yet. I don't think we were necessarily aware of it that it existed, but I see no reason why we wouldn't allow this option to families that have had COVID in the past to at least get tested, and if they have the positive antibody, not have to quarantine.
Is there something we really need a motion for, or is it just? Yeah, I wouldn't.
So,
just
we haven't been doing it yet, right? Like, but we can. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know that part. Great.
And
So
you're going to accept that test, Heather?
Thank you, Holly.
Okay.
So if that applies to families, or if you think that applies to your kid who might be in quarantine right now, I know that LabCorp will do that testing. They say that it's probably not any cost. You need a doctor's order for it. If you don't have a doctor that you can get, they'll give you a virtual visit with a doctor for $10. So that is a service being offered by LabCorp, and I know that there's one in Clark Summit. So.
Thank you. Item 3 is first reading of school board policies.
No.
We don't need to.
No vote is needed, Bob. Board policy number 146.1, trauma-informed approach, on pages 39 to 43. And this is also first reading on safe to say something procedures. Attachment to board policy number 805, emergency preparedness and response, on pages 44 to 58.
First reading.
Do we have a motion for?
It's just the first reading.
It's
We
just the
don't have
first reading.
Oops, that time.
Do we have a motion for items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Motion.
Second.
Any
And I have
discussion?
something to say.
Yes.
Page 81, and Rich, you're sitting right here, so maybe you can help me out.
Oh, come on.
When it comes to mental health, ID, and autism, if we're making agreement with the borough, the township, the state, and any security officers we employ, that they have full training. I'm reading through this, and I really think that we need to take a double check of this reading.
Well, let's table that until next.
Okay, that's fine.
Table it.
Which one was that? Sorry.
On page 81. D.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion for items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Did we have a second?
I was second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Swilly?
Yes.
Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Mr. Burke, did we lose you?
I can see his picture.
Mr. Burke? Not getting a response. Guess we go on.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Gregory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
You said yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Dr. Pabola?
I think
Lost him
the
as well.
computer lost him.
I got the lost one.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes. Item 10, other public comments.
I do, Mr. Farr.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Varder.
Last meeting, it got,
I don't know whether you can hear me, but the audio is gone, so I don't know what's being voted on, so I'm going to have to abstain.
That's all right. We went on without the anyway. But it was.
I have to
it was
abstain as
rest of
well.
the new business.
I'm dropping you guys.
Thanks, Bill.
last meeting, I wanted to bring up of the passing of Neil Williams, who was a former teacher here for many, many years. And we got adjourned before I could get it out. And I just wanted to think of the Williams family. And he was a great teacher. When I was back in the middle grades, he was just a fantastic teacher.
It's always a shame when we lose a good teacher like Mr. Williams was. He was retired for a number of years.
There was one other thing I wanted to ask about tonight. Since we have masks now, what do we need to do to get high schoolers' ability to use their lockers?
The middle school kids get to use theirs, why can't the high school kids? You're right, it
Okay.
doesn't open up the lockers. Yep.
I know there are a lot of kids that probably won't even use them, but there are a lot of kids that will. And I probably have one of each. So, all right.
Any other public comments?
comment. We have masks for students who want to use school masks, but they may use any of the face coverings that qualify under that thing. So,
Gaithers.
Continue to skip past me. I'm at the mic. It's another violation.
No, our
George.
technical guy is working on it. Thank you.
George, would you like my seat on the board? Come on over, buddy, because I'm over it.
Just like the mic.
Like, this has
All right,
been going on for weeks.
here you go.
Get
Ready?
him out, somebody get him out of here.
Go. 2 minutes.
I don't have the mic.
It's,
You will in a moment. Mr. Victor's taking care of it. Thank
Let
you.
me know when this is on. Okay, good. Now, they had 14 minutes. He had 2
you
times.
have 2 minutes. You can use it talking
Right.
about time if you want.
So everything I did to disrupt this board, it really wasn't meant to disrupt it. It was to put you on legal notice. Everybody up there is on legal notice for the willful neglect. And you know it's true. This is what you took an oath to. You wrote it, you amended it. In asserting the intent of the board in adopting a policy or procedure or the administration in establishing a regulation, the following presumptions among other legal applicable presumptions may be used. That neither the board nor the administration intends as a result to be absurd. And the word absurd by your own people, she just did it right there, an absurd thing. So that being said, if it's impossible of execution or unreasonable, that neither the board nor the administration intends to violate federal, state constitution, or any other applicable law. If any policy or procedure or administration regulation can be given multiple interpretations, the board and the administration intend only to use the Constitution, and lawful interpretation shall be valid, and that neither an unconstitutional or unlawful interpretation was intended. John Burke calls it a law, you call it a mandate. What is it, sir? A law or a mandate? You won't answer it. Thank you. I know it. So if it is a mandate and you're going to take the mandate, you take the full mandate. And when you rewrite it, Bill Perbola said it last meeting, when you go outside your lane or outside your jurisdiction, you make yourself culpable and liable. Individually, you are culpable and liable because you're going outside your jurisdiction. You are changing the mandate. The mandate allows for an exception for a cause. You have my exemption for my kids. And he keeps deliberately missing the fact that if it can cause a medical condition or exacerbate one, if you have one and it can exacerbate one, you need a 504. But if it can cause one, you don't need a 504 because you can't figure it out. I have 2 FOIA requests that's going to wind up costing the board $250,000 by the time I'm done because they don't give me the stuff that's due to me over the counter. I'm going to present this to Heather. It's asking for the insurance for all of you. All the policies, I want them. We're going to look for the loopholes. We're going to find it. When you go outside of your lane, you break your immunity. Your qualified immunity will be lost. Hide your treasures when you go home.
You're grossly overestimating the number of treasures I happen to possess.
I know, hide them. Another one is I want the correspondence that threatened all the teachers. I want the correspondence that threatened it.
I just have a quick question. As far as election, are any of you guys up for re-election this fall?
Sure.
Several of us were up for election, in the primary, and then from the primary, there's still the general election.
Okay, when's it? When?
It's in the courthouse.
We have, when is the election? I'm sorry. It's in November, the first Tuesday in November.
Which members are up for re-election? So we got Holly. Who else?
Wait till next round, though.
I'm sorry, what's your
Mr.
name?
Swilly and Mr. Perry, but they're retiring.
Oh, okay. All right. So Swilly and Perry retiring. And who else? Shayna. Okay, and that's it?
I'm up.
Okay. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Andrew Franco back there in the orange shirt was elected to take Mr. Swilly's position in the spring.
Okay.
So they,
All right, thank you.
November 2nd is election day.
November 2nd, Mr. Widener says.
Hi again. So I just have a couple questions here. One of my daughters was quarantined. So she was a close contact considered on Friday. So we didn't do COVID testing. So if she does not have a COVID test, is she allowed to return to school on Monday, or how many days does that go? Friday, you mentioned to me. I think. Without a test. With no symptoms. Okay, my next question is this. Somebody had mentioned to me on Facebook that there is a 10-minute COVID test that Dr. Williams offers for patients. Now, is that possible for the school to have that so that we know in that instant?
That was the thing I tabled tonight.
Okay.
There is something out there. It has two features to it. Heather, correct me again if I'm off. One is an option that we can do like surveillance testing, where like all the kids in the class are tested. Those tests are run together to see if there's any positives in the class.
Is that a nasal swab?
I don't know. Yes.
Okay.
And then the other one, I don't think anybody was really considering an option like that in the district, really. But the other one was to have something to offer for parents if they wanted to have the testing done so that a student could come back sooner.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to state something. When Mr. Burke mentioned, I believe it was Mr. Burke that mentioned that doctors know our kids better than we do. My children don't see a doctor, so we actually have Geisinger. Now we have Dr. Say as a doctor, and we haven't actually seen him ever since the initial appointment on a virtual screen. So we have random doctors, so I wouldn't go to the fact to say that my doctor knows my children more than me, because we don't even see the same practitioner. That's all I have to say about that. Now, my daughter last year, I was here because we had issues with her going on live Zoom meetings with random people. I just wanted to update what the resolution to that was. The resolution was that we had decided to let her keep her computer at school. She continued to do it at school, and then apparently she had, somebody had gave it to her to bring home over Easter break. My children, my other girls said, Paige has her computer, we're pretty sure she does. They said, no, they know that she's not supposed to have it here. Well, it turns out that she did. So during the whole Easter break, she was accessing these people. So then it got to the point that I got a phone call, I believe from the principal at the intermediate center, that stated that an art teacher came to her with printouts of messages that my daughter had actually looked like she was discussing, talking to herself. Hey, what's up? Oh, nothing, and that's how she was getting on Zoom with these people, because then it wasn't outside of Canvas. So she actually gave them her information to get, so the response to that was they took the computer. She was not allowed on computers. They took her lunch pin and gave her a new one, and she was not allowed access to that. So this year, she's in the 7th grade STEM Academy. I contacted the STEM Academy before she had started, and I explained the issues that we had before. They mentioned that she cannot, they'll give me the computer, so if we have virtual days like right now where she's quarantined, that she can do her work on the virtual computer in front of me. My question to the board is this. I believe that there needs to be some kind of class that kids need to have about the dangers of people online. And there has to be some way to block these things, because given the chance, she will do it again. And I can't constantly, I have 7 children, I have 5 and 6 in school right now. So I can't always sit there nonstop and watch this. So if there's a way to block things, and I believe we learned through Boy Scouts there was something other than Zoom that could be used that was more secure, so that people couldn't access random meetings and things like this. So my question to you guys is, can we please look into some kind of class for children so they know what's out there, know what dangers are, and work with that?
I don't know that at any level we necessarily have a class, but I do think that we try to educate kids about that, but it is something we certainly will look into.
Okay, because all we've had is a paper that we sign that we've read, and that goes to my, my first grader, second grader too, so she doesn't understand, so that was my concern. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned. Good evening, everyone.